aren't here. Some are. Some will last a couple of years. I talked to one of my other YouTuber friends who's in Florida gardening too. And one of the things, and I've heard it from some of my friends from Elite, is like one of the things that from the outside, sometimes you need people to tell you from the outside what you do well. And what I've been told I do well is I am like the tortoise. I am very consistent with my views. Like you go to my channel and I'm like batting the same number all the time. Like I'm doing base hits all day. I don't hit it out of the park, but I do base hits all day and I'm getting home runs. And that's kind of my strength is I'm very consistent. I have a lot of return viewers. I build a lot of community and loyalty. I'm very big on building that. But I don't necessarily, and there's certain things, I even had a conversation with one of my friend YouTubers last week. And she said, you could do some stuff to like agitate things more and you get more views. And I'm like, yeah, but that's so counter to me. Because what I used to do in the factory, my part of my job for a few of the years was I would be put in like the most contentious departments where there's like workplace violence, possible active shooters, sexual assaults, and all sorts of. And my job was always to like calm the waters. So me agitating things is like, no, I'm not doing it. But I mean, that's the one thing from like the 20,000 foot views. I'm very consistently and methodically growing. I am the tortoise, just kind of plodding along, getting bigger each year. It's never really sexy looking. But it keeps happening, and so I just keep going.
But also look at you now. And I think these are such great, I mean, these are like ultimate values, like run your own race. It's, yeah. I also think, like, you know, the grass is greener. We look at somebody else's channel, maybe we see their views, we see, oh man, they started later than me, and we can get into that, but you just never know what's happening behind the scenes. And then you also let things play out. You never know if that's going to be sustainable. Where are they going to be in 3 or 6 months or 12 months? And that's not, you're not praying for somebody else's downfall, but like I've seen that over the long haul that it's like, well, you know, we'll see. Time will tell. Your race, your pace, run your own race, patience, long game. Newcomers will come on the scene. They'll come and go. But if I think about all of this, it kind of ties up the podcast as like this farmer mentality versus the hunter mentality. And sometimes as a hunter, we do need to like go kill and eat tonight because we have to feed our family. And that's why we work a day job, because we know we work, we get paid. But YouTube and building an online brand that lasts, you don't want to have a hunter mentality because you want to have a farming mentality. I'm planting seeds, I'm watering them, and then I'm being patient. And sometimes it feels like it's so slow, like I'm staring and trying to watch the grass grow. But over time, and you've proved that out. So you're getting to hear, listeners are getting to hear a narrative and a real story that you've lived in your life of what a YouTube career can look like over years of patience, of diligence, and really of like not having any viral videos, quote unquote viral. But you mentioned a term, VFM, viral for me, just like beating your previous best. And people can't see underneath the surface. They might look at your subscriber count, your view count, and they might be like, oh man, that's not, she must not have much, you know, enough money to live on. But most people only are focusing on views where you've got this deeper business. And I actually did say we were landing the plane. I do want to close the loop. You've productized what you know. And you've actually created 2 products that on the video version of the podcast you can hold up. You started with 1, now there's 2. Explain these products and actually what it was like. These are beautiful too. And this actually, I hope, inspires vision. Digital products are awesome. It's a good way to get started, but you've gone like full circle into creating these like beautiful resources that you're now able to like offer to your audience. Explain what you've packaged, what you know, and how that ties into your channel. And this is the like almost 50% of your revenue. This is like kind of basically the core of your online business.
Yeah. Yeah. And it goes back to that whole, like, what's your community? Who are you serving? Because I mean, I remember early on, not from the VRA family, but from other people would be like, you're only going to be doing Florida gardening. Like, you're not going to do other things. And like, now I'm the #1 channel for Florida gardening. Like, when you just type in Florida gardening, you will see my video first, and probably 4th and 10th and 12th and 15th, because that's all I do is I talk to Floridians. And when it came to figuring out a product, it was really solving at that time, like what wasn't really being solved for people, which was what to plant and when to plant it, which for Florida is, and that's where like knowing your community is that I recognized that Florida was a very different climate. Most people weren't born here. I could pull up census data to show all that fun stuff. And so I needed to help them. And then so one of the logical things is to have some tool to tell you what to plant and when to plant it. But I am a planner girly. Like, forget gardening. I just love planners in general. Like, I plan, I have happy planners and Bujo planners. If you're in the planner world, you know, like all these little terms. So like, of course I'm going to make a planner that's pretty and that you can like write in, and it'll tell you what to plant. And it's Florida specific. It's not for everybody. It is just for Florida, and it solves the problems for Florida. And I get lots of good feedback. I get lots of comments unsolicited on videos. People were like, oh my God, I didn't realize how much was in there. Like, I didn't realize like how much planning space you gave me and how much detail you're going to give me for, you know, so, and then I have people now who are like, I live in Arizona. Is there an Arizona version or a Georgia version? And I'm like, I mean, I don't know of anyone who's making it. I tell you if I did. And so this answered what to plant and when to plant it. And the book came from a lot of people saying like, I love all your content, but like, is there a place that kind of summarizes the main ideas? Because Florida is so different gardening wise. So it's kind of like, why is Florida different from the way I should understand it? And that's where the book came in, is it really was supposed to help. And it's the beginner's guide to Florida gardening. And it's really supposed to help people with like the very fundamental concepts around our environment, our wildlife, our ecosystems, and how it applies to their gardening. And it breaks it down in a very specific way. And so then they kind of pair really nicely together, because this helps you understand why things are happening the way they are in Florida. But this just keeps you on track to be like, hey, you know, most gardening channels right now are just planting their first seeds for lettuce. And I'm like, forget lettuce, forget even tomatoes at this point. Like, we're on to like loofahs and stuff like that. So it'll help them understand, why am I saying all the crazy things I say? So yeah. And what happened was like, I did a lot of pricing, and that's when the bundle came up. It was in late 2023 is when I started offering the bundles, because I realized from a pricing structure, it could increase my profit margins on the book. So like, you can get the book through Amazon, but if I offer it with a planner, instead of making $2 on this book, I now make $7.50 on the book by combining it with this. And then I make the same high profit margin on the planner too. And then that allows me to work in a factory.
So how much is the planner?
The planner is $39.
And then the book is an upsell?
It's $10 plus shipping. So it's combined with shipping, it's around $54, $55 for them.
If they get the bundle.
If they get the bundle, which most people get the bundle. That was the interesting thing. I just put it together because I was like, hey, this would be an idea. I didn't even mention it. We just threw it on the page, and we started selling way more bundles. Like, it's not even 50-50 planner bundle. It's way over.
And then do you know your margin off of that? So by the time you're printing everything and getting it all shipped out?
Yes. So are you talking about for the planner or for
maybe the whole bundle? Once shipping's paid, or $54 collected, but then there's the cost of shipping and the cost of printing.
It's about $20 profit, $22 profit.
Got it. So you've really built out. And then how is your book on CreateSpace through Amazon? Basically, like anybody, you could also upload it on Amazon.
Yeah. So they're both made through KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing. So they can both be bought on Amazon. The difference is that the planner is at a much higher price on Amazon. So I still make the same profit margin on the book, but by buying it through me, you get a discount, because they take a lot. They take a lot in the royalty side, like a lot.
That actually, I mean, that's just across the board, no matter what the product is. If you go direct to the website, it would seem like they can give you, because Amazon is not taking their cut when you cut Amazon out, you know?
Right.
But Amazon is a big marketplace. So the idea that you could have it in both places is also nice, because if any sales come in. And then also, we continue to unpack more nuggets. You actually were able to get that beautiful book. You could hold it up again. One of our, partners, a friend of mine, Chandler Bolt, has a company called Self-Publishing School. And so you work with them to get that book done, right? Like, how was that experience?
Oh, my coach, Brett, he was great. I liked, and I like that Elite now kind of has a very similar system. It was great. Because I think we had like a little free thing where we did like a brainstorm dump, but like what I really liked is, so Brett was my coach, and he would really spend the time following, it's like their model of like, what are you trying to accomplish? And it's very similar stuff that what we do in the VRA, like the niche finder and stuff like that. Like, who are you trying to reach? What are you trying to solve for them? And all that kind of stuff. So making sure it was really, but I loved how they would have writing sessions, writing rooms. So like you would show up like Wednesday morning, you turn on your cameras, you tell everybody tells each other what they're going to write, like what they're going to work on. Like, I'm going to work on chapter 2, I'm going to get 500 words done, whatever. And then we all turn our cameras off and there's just like meditative music and we would just, but their method of like how to work through a book for me worked really well. Because I knocked this thing out like super fast. I don't even remember. I think I joined probably in the spring. It came out August of 2023. So it was like 6 to 9 months, I think, the whole process. Maybe I started in January, but it was about 6 to 9 months and I had a published book.
Man, that's so cool. So a couple of resources I want Think Media Podcast to know about is I'll put in the show notes. I actually have a couple of videos to maybe help you decide reasons to write a book and how to make it happen. That's a free video series on the podcast or audio series. I'll link that up in the show notes. And then also, if you want to learn a little bit more about what Jacqueline did, if you go to startyourbook.live, there's an on-demand class from Self-Publishing School about some really tactical things of how to write and publish your book in 90 days. So that URL is startyourbook.live. That'll be in the show notes. And then a couple other resources earlier on too, if you wanted to learn a little bit more about ranking videos and affiliate marketing, we have a free class on demand at Think Media at thinkmasterclass.com. That'll all be in the show notes, a few extra episodes, a few extra resources. And Jacqueline, you've added just massive value today. I want you to give a full roll call if people want to check your channel out, which I think they should. Good students study. Success leaves clues, and you've been very successful, and your channel's very also unique and I think inspiring. I want, if you're not driving or able to actually check out Jacqueline's channel, I mean, I think you could see like videos don't have to be complex. She's still filming on her phone. You look at like kind of the overall content of her channel, like it's an inspiration to see what you've done and also how financially successful it's been, speaking to the impact and income. So where can people follow you? We'll make sure that these links are in the show notes.
I'm 100% YouTube. So you can find me. You can just go to YouTube and you can just type in Florida gardening. I am usually 99 point. Actually, for the last 18 months, I'll say it. Let me celebrate myself.
You're like, yeah,
I'm number one
gardening. I just own the whole space.
Yeah, no, I mean, like you just type in Florida gardening and you'll see lots of my videos. But the channel name is Wild Floridian.
Yeah.
So I'm here to help and support my Floridians find the joy of gardening down here in the subtropics, growing food and flowers.
Yes. Okay. Final question. What's your best advice for someone with a full-time job who wants to build a profitable YouTube channel without burning out?
Without burning out? Work based on time, not by accomplishment. So your time is limited. So you will basically say, this is the time I have to edit. And that's what I get. So I get an hour to edit. That's what I get. And it'll force you to start making choices because we could always make it better. We could always make it more something, but forcing yourself to just have time blocks to just, this is what I'm going to do. I have a half hour to film or I have 30 minutes to prep. And that's all I got because that's what I got for the week. That way you can do your job and keep showing up for your job. You can keep showing up for your family. You still have time to sleep and relax. Sometimes you can do that. And then, but then you start getting stuff done. So I have an hour. This is my list. I'm going to get as far as I can on my list. And that is what it is. That would be my best way to say, is just get started. And then just get out of your head, get out of your own way, because that's the time killer, is overthinking things. You just got to, I do it even to this day. I turn on a timer. I'm like, you got 90 minutes, go. That's what you got. You got to get it done.
Jacqueline, so grateful for you. And Think Media Podcast, wherever you listen or watch, it means the world to us. If you like, rate, review, and share the podcast. My name is Sean Cannell, your guide to building a profitable YouTube channel. And I can't wait to connect with you in a future episode.
IRS e-file is now open. Snap your W-2 and file your taxes 100% free. Plus, get your biggest refund. Roughly 37% of filers qualify. Simple Form 1040 returns. No schedules except for earned income tax credit, child tax credit.
The biggest mistakes you see people making during interviews.
When you can tell they didn't really listen to the answer and they were just focused on their next question. For me personally, it's the missed follow-up where all great interviews go to die.
Someone that's just starting is like, I have an aspiration to do this, but that first interview, how do you get comfortable and develop confidence to get into conversations with people of such high caliber?
Those first couple questions need to try to establish connection and chemistry.
How do you go about trying to come up with questions that are original, unique, different?
3 things that I'm doing. First thing is,
podcasting is exploding right now. YouTube alone sees viewers watching over 400 million hours of podcasts monthly on TVs, and major platforms like Netflix are rushing into the podcast game. The opportunity is massive. Creators like Alex Cooper are landing $125 million deals and building business empires beyond their wildest dreams. But competition is fiercer than ever. So how do you stand out? Well, you need exceptional interviewing skills, the kind that turn casual conversations into unforgettable moments that grow your audience. And today, you'll learn from one of the true masters of the interview, Ken Coleman. Dave Ramsey calls him one of the best interviewers in the country. And we're going to be learning about how you can craft perfect questions that get guests to share stories they've never told before. The exact preparation methods that build instant rapport with guests, from politicians to entrepreneurs, and why most podcast hosts completely miss the transformational moments that turn listeners into super fans. This confidence building framework is going to help you whether you're just wanting to launch a new show, whether you want to architect an upcoming video podcast or podcast, and become a better interviewer and conversationalist. Today with me is Ken Coleman. He is the host of Front Row Seat. He is a 3 times best-selling author, frequent guest on Fox Business, and he also coaches thousands of people to get better, move up, and lead well. Ken Coleman, welcome to the Think Media Podcast.
Great to be with you again, friend. Love what you're doing, Sean.
So I'm excited to dive in. You know, you actually wrote a book years ago. It was one of the first books I ever bought from you, called The One Question.
Yeah.
And you are an expert. You've interviewed all kinds of athletes and now politicians and entrepreneurs and business people. Now, you talk about how a single question can reveal profound insights. Can you talk about how you learned that and what you've learned about the power of crafting the right question for the right guest?
I love this question because when I wrote that book many years ago, I was launching into a career built around doing interviews. I was associated with a very large leadership conference called Catalyst, connected to John Maxwell, the leadership guru. And so I had gotten the opportunity to, when I launched the Catalyst podcast, and then I would do these long form interviews on stage in front of 12,000 leaders. You know, I had to figure out how to craft a conversation.
Montreal's unique vibe awakens something within you.
Oh, I lost it. My hands already hurt. I'm Sue Bird. I'm a retired professional basketball player, and Symetra is trying to help me find a hobby in retirement. So today, I'm gonna be doing this. Oh, wow.
I'm Jessie.
Hi, nice to meet you.
And I'm Jenny.
So mom and daughter, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, how did that come about?
She started doing this.
Okay, it's your fault. Yeah, that looked intense.
Symetra wanted us to teach her a little bit about ninja training. So we created a course for Sue today. We're gonna start with the ascending quintuple step. Run across the tires, a couple little agility things, monkey bar on some ring, dash across some unstable block, leap to ground, you end up at the work wall, and hit a buzzer.
I'm like, how?
Ah, dang it. Yeah, so good.
It's gonna be a long day. Jesse and Jenny both make everything look entirely too easy.
Here?
Symetra, what are you doing to me? I forgot the match. Fuck. Oh no. I don't think I'd be a good stunt person, is what we're learning.
Stay relaxed.
And so for a second, you're like, okay, like the TikTok. You're like, all right, you're just swinging back and forth. And you're like letting go. How hard can this be? It's not that easy. So do you guys still compete?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get to share with the world what's possible in your 40s.
Or 70s.
Or 70s. It's like I can have a super successful career, retire, and start another one at 60. I feel like she's the most inspiring competitor.
It calls to you, doesn't it?
It calls to my like 12-year-old self. The 44 is over here like, do we need to do this? You start doing it, you realize just how much technique is involved.
Yes, there it is.
Good.
How much timing's involved.
Oh, that was better.
I'm thrilled that Symetra brought me here to do this. I'm an athlete, so you're competitive, and I was like, I'm ready for this challenge, but am I really ready?
Okay, you want to try the whole thing?
Yeah, thank you guys.
Don't forget to
thank
breathe.
you.
Okay, you got this.
I think this is one of those things where if you're gonna do it, you really have to dedicate yourself to it.
Look at that.
Keep going, keep going. Spot the ring, line up the hips.
Yeah.
Nice, yes!
The swinging, that requires so much strength.
Quick feet.
I wasn't sure if I was gonna come across something that I physically wasn't gonna be able to do. There's this moment of, oh, you're just in the air. Like, this is just you up there. I almost just f***ing kill myself. I'm scared. The warp wall's no joke.
Focus, take a breath. Yes! Oh, that was...
It felt really good. You know, as an athlete, you get to experience that immediate sense of satisfaction, and I haven't really had that since I retired, so it was nice to feel that again.
Sue was amazing, and to see her open up this whole new category was really fun for us.
I'm very grateful to Symetra for making me a champion again. It's been a while. How sore am I gonna be? I'm gonna be like crazy sore.
Are you sore now?
Maybe?
Going to bring as much value as a keynote. At least that was the goal. So that's where that started for me. When I got into the interview craft, I was trying to figure out, how do I interview Tony Dungy, the Super Bowl winning coach of the Colts, who's not necessarily a gifted communicator at all and more comfortable in an interview, but how do I turn that interview into something that has as much takeaway as a keynote? And that was a lofty goal. I'm not sure we ever got there, but we sure did try. And as a result, I developed the process and self-train on how to do a good interview. But if I go back further to answer your question specifically, that notion that a question can change your life, I discovered that early on, hanging out with my dad, who was a pastor, at pastors' conferences, and being in the room with, great preachers and leaders. And because I was a middle schooler or a teenager at the time, and he'd always introduce me, these people would be very kind, like, oh, here's the young kid. And I just instinctively one day, in one of those backroom meetings, and I was curious. And I remember early on realizing how impactful it was. It was impactful in a couple ways. Number one, it was a small talk opportunity where that person must have said to me, how you doing, young man, or good to see you, and I just took the moment to ask a question that I was interested in. And so it was impactful in a couple ways. And there's some real learnings here based on your setup. Number one, it caught them off guard in a good way. They weren't expecting a middle schooler or a teenager to ask a question. They were probably expecting small talk, right? Just kind of a return. Hopefully the kid can look you in the eye. Hopefully the kid can shake your hand and doesn't act awkward. Of course, I'm old. So back in my day, we knew how to have a conversation with an adult because we never had a device. So it just kind of caught him off guard in a good way. The second thing it did is it made a deeper connection between me and that person, because they were kind of like, well, this kid came to play and asked me a question that I actually need to answer. And I'm engaged. And so the connection was deeper than just a quick, how you doing, hello. And the third thing it did is I actually learned something.
Co-pilot, I'm freaking out about this speech right now. How can I get it together?
All right, simplify, speak slowly, own the room. You've got this.
Get this low-mileage 2025 Cadillac Optic Luxury one-vehicle show lease for around $519 per month.
Learn something. And it proved to me that one question literally can change your life. It can open up a door of opportunity that maybe before that moment didn't exist, or you've been looking for it. Or it, in this example, provides some insight that gives you a distinct advantage because you just learned knowledge and wisdom. And usually it's a combination. So early on, Sean, before I ever thought about getting into being an interviewer and broadcasting, because I went the traditional route of radio, I figured out that being curious is an advantage. And taking curiosity, which we all have, and begin to hone it by asking questions, because curiosity unused, I believe, can disappear. We know from data, in fact, that very first book you mentioned, One Question, I cited data, a study from the University of Michigan that said that by the time we reach the 8th grade, most Americans are only asking 2 to 3 questions a day. Now, you're a dad of little ones. I've got 3 teens, but any parent listening to us right now, watching this, that's a striking piece of data, because kids are hardwired to ask questions. Toddlers ask hundreds, if not thousands of questions a day. And then by the time the 8th grade comes around, they're only asking 2 to 3. Why? Because curiosity has been beat out of them by our school system, because they're test takers, not question askers. That's a separate pulpit. I'm not going to jump on that one today. But it illustrates the point that if we don't use curiosity, it does contract. But on the other hand, if we take that natural curiosity that we all have, we come into this world, nobody teaches a little kid to ask questions. They just ask, why, Daddy? You answer that? Why, Daddy? Are they trying to be obnoxious? No. They have an innate curiosity to get to the bottom of things. So if we use that curiosity and we ask good questions, then eventually we'll ask better questions. And when we ask better questions, we eventually ask great questions. And when you ask great questions, you get great results.
I'm so excited to hear about your interview process that you eventually developed. But if we go a little bit deeper on questions, we're living in an era where a lot of people want to start a video podcast. There's a big opportunity for it. It really is an incredible opportunity. Even the way we're engaging right now, you're in Nashville, I'm in the Pacific Northwest. Through technology, we're able to create a show, turn this into a video podcast, distribute it in audio. You can connect with anybody in the world right now. And as a result, a lot of people are starting shows, and a lot of guests they've already been on things. I mean, even some bigger guests, you start realizing, like, when someone goes on their podcast tour, they go on 5 shows, 10 shows, 15. And so one of the most important things in content creation is figuring out how to be different, figuring out how to stand out. So if you were to give us any tips in an age where we might just plug in the person's name to AI and be like, hey, can you give me some questions to ask this person? There's going to be a lot of people who are echoing the same information. How do you go about trying to come up with questions that are original, unique, different, that really help people connect with your content over the years that listeners could think about for trying to really carve unique conversations with guests they invite on their shows?
Yeah, it's really good. 3 things that I'm doing. First thing is I ask myself, what does the audience want to know? So if you have a target audience for a show you want to launch, or you have an existing show and you have stated ahead of time, this is my audience. So that's your demographic, and so never lose sight of your audience when you craft an interview. And so the way I do it is it's a 3-part question. First question is, what does my audience want to know? So let's just take front row seat with Ken Coleman. What does my audience want to know? They want to know how to get better so they can move up professionally. And if they keep moving up, they're going to be in a leadership role. They want to know how to lead effectively. So my audience wants to win professionally, right? That's what they want, because all the trappings that come with that. So I know my audience. So what does the audience want to know is the first question. Well, they want to know how to win. Okay. Now, that's very broad. So that's why the second question comes in. What does the audience need to know? All right. So the way I lay it out is the audience needs to know how to get better, move up, and lead well. So front row seat, if you look at my team in meetings, we have these 3 buckets, and it's in the tagline of the show. Get better, move up, lead well. Those are the buckets of content, because I've determined, based on research and knowing the audience, that's what they need to know, okay? They need to know how to get better. So that is physical, spiritual, relational, financial, okay, emotional. So just take those. So that's just, if I look at what is get better bucket, that means get better as a person. Because I know if they get better personally, Sean, they're going to bring that person to work with them. And as a result, it'll help them to move up professionally. So let's look at the move up. What do they need to do to move up professionally? Hard skills and soft skills. Pretty simple. Again, lots of content underneath those headings, but you've created a menu. And then the third bucket is lead well. So this is leadership 101, communication, delegation. Just as 2 little simple examples, but I know what leadership 101 looks like, right? So that's what the audience needs to know. Now you start thinking about guests, and you go, okay, so let's take the physical, the subcategory under get better. So physical, that's a nutritionist, that's a workout expert, that's a sleep expert. Okay, you start going, okay, these are things that can help them physically. Someone who's a stress expert, whatever. So you start going, okay, what do they need to know? They need to know how to be better physically so they have more energy to take to work. So you start going sleep, exercise, nutrition. You get that. So then you go, okay, so if that's what they need to know, then who's the best guest to come in and provide that information for them? So I'm always looking at a guest that has the right expertise or experience. and ideally both. And I want someone who is an expert, but also someone who has an experience to go along with it. And, I don't want to just have a bunch of professors all the time. I want some people who, have lived it, and they lost 400 pounds and now they have 6% body fat. Now that's an expert, but also someone with an experience. So the three questions are, and I tried to illustrate them real quick. It's, what does the audience want to know? That means you got to know your audience. So what does the audience want to know? What do they need to know? Because there's a difference between want and need. I want to know how to lead better. Okay, great. Well, what do you need to know to be a better leader? There's your answer there. And then what can your guest bring to that need? How can the guest meet the need through their expertise and their experience? Now, those three questions.
Taxes was taxing. Now taxes is relaxing when you file for free.
I can file for free. TurboTax Free Edition, 37% of file.
Questions, those have to be answered before you even write your first question. But once I know the answers to those questions, Sean, now I know how to construct the interview, because the interview is got to tee up or lead the guest to be able to deliver what the audience needs. And back to that example I gave earlier, if you're doing a big time interview, it needs to have the same value, or you need to try to have the same value coming out of that as you would a keynote. And that is going to be directly related to the quality of your questions. So before I ever construct the interview, I answer those three questions. Then I move into, okay, how do I want the interview to end? And then that tells me how I want the interview to start. And that allows me to create this narrative.
How do you usually want the interview to end? So you're thinking about an emotion?
It depends on the person and the topic. And when I say topic, I'm saying loosely. We got a general theme here, but we're going to cover so much. So every interview needs to end in its own unique way. Sometimes you can plan the ending with the last question, and sometimes you can't. But when I write an interview, I'd at least like to know, where do I want this to end up? Like, what's kind of that last thing? And then that allows me to go, okay, then where do I need to start to try to create some rapport? Rapport is huge. I don't think there's any throwaway questions, but I do think there are some questions that are lighter than others to establish connection. In other words, I'll take you to an example. The only time I interviewed Condoleezza Rice. So for those who don't know who Condoleezza Rice is, you can look her up, but she was the National Security Advisor and then became Secretary of State for President George W. Bush. So this is a serious lady. Before that, she was the provost at Stanford. And then prior to our conversation, she became the second woman and the first minority female to be a member at Augusta National, the legendary golf, super, super private club. So this is a woman with tremendous gravitas, and she's accomplished a lot. And she's also been interviewed 5,000 times. So I got a lot going against me here, and I'm interviewing her in front of 5,000 leaders. So that's its own pressure cooker, because leaders are critics and they're sitting there going, feed me, Ken, I came here to see Condoleezza Rice and I got to deal with you up there. This better be good. I mean, that's the idea. And they're not really thinking that, but some probably were. Here's my point. First thing I said to her before we even sat down, we walked out, the crowd's clapping for her. And she's standing up. We're about ready to sit down in these comfortable chairs. She's just given a keynote. So they've heard from her, but it's been a canned keynote. And I'm got ready to take this thing a totally different direction. And she's never met me before. So before she sits down, I say to the crowd, I said, before we get started, Secretary Rice, I said, you look lovely today. She's like, thank you, Ken. I said, I think everybody, certainly golfers in the room, are wondering, how hard is it to pick an outfit out that goes with that green jacket? And most people reacted the way you just did. The golfers laughed out loud. It was an audible chuckle. They appreciated it. She laughed. She said something, whatever. But it immediately created a connection between the two of us. It was not a throwaway question. It was a connection question. She answered. Then we sat down, and I'm telling you, I could see it on her face. She was like, this guy came prepared. This guy's not joking around. He's not just from the seat of his pants. He's not nervous. Like there was a lot she could take away from that interaction. And so those first couple questions need to try to establish connection and chemistry. And the way to do that many times is to do something like I just did there, which is very personal, very customized. They know you've done your homework on them. And that just loosens them up a little bit.
Well, Ken, I just want to say you look great today.
Thank you. I wish I had a green jacket.
These insights, though, are so powerful, like lighter questions, not throwaway questions to build rapport.
Yeah.
The compliment, kind of creating laughter, connection, and then preparedness. I mean, a lot of this comes back. I'm sure listeners are already like, whoa, the level of thinking. You just broke down the whole strategy for your show, too. You're like, there's a lot of things we need to know before we even get to those first questions. If we actually use some of your recent guests on your show, Front Row Seat, how do you prepare differently when interviewing someone like Nikki Haley versus an entrepreneur like Dan Martell?
Hey, we're about to get back into the podcast in just a second, but I have a question for you. Do you want to grow your personal brand this year? Do you need more leads and sales in your business? If the answer is yes, then right now is the best time to go all in on YouTube. Today's podcast is brought to you by thinkmasterclass.com, where you can get on-demand access to a 1-hour deep dive training revealing how to start and grow a profitable YouTube channel this year. For a limited time, you can get access to this on-demand class entirely for free, where you will learn the 3 biggest mistakes that people make when starting a YouTube channel, the new rules and changes that have been happening on YouTube and how you can use them to create an unfair advantage, and the exact strategy we use at Think Media to generate over 350,000 organic views every single day. The data is clear. 70% of viewers claim that YouTube makes them more aware of new brands. So don't wait any longer to start growing your brand and business with YouTube. Just go to thinkmasterclass.com to get access to this no-fluff, highly tactical, free on-demand training. That's thinkmasterclass.com.
How do you prepare differently when interviewing someone like Nikki Haley versus an entrepreneur like Dan Martell?
What is atrial fibrillation? I like to tell patients, you should think of your heart to be like a house. The heart muscle is the brick walls on the outside. The heart chambers are like the bedrooms, and the heart valves are like the doors opening and closing between the bedrooms. The blood flow to the heart is the plumbing, and your heartbeat actually runs through an electrical network. So atrial fibrillation is an irregularity within the electrical network involving the upper chambers of the heart.
We have 2 upper chambers called atria and 2 bottom chambers, which are ventricles. And the atria are integral in helping the ventricle, which is the main pumping chamber, fill up with blood so you can have an efficient contraction and a good pump and good pumping of blood to all the organs. So when you have AFib, the atria, instead of being in a normal coordinated rhythm with the bottom chamber, the top chamber starts to go extremely fast and irregular and starts to almost quiver, where it's not able to contract in a strong way to provide.
Yeah, I love this question. So Nikki's body of work is in a completely different lane than Dan Martell, right? So Dan's stuff, he's putting out everything he thinks on Instagram and YouTube. So, you don't have to wonder what Dan thinks and why he thinks it. That guy he's in that lane. And, you also know his type. He's very wealthy. He's an entrepreneur. He doesn't even need to be doing any of this. Why is he doing it? There's a lot that you already know about Dan because everything's out there. Nikki, the only thing you know is what's been curated by her own team. She's a politician, so every speech she's ever given has been written by somebody else, edited 3 or 4 times. When you see her in an interview, it's not long form in podcasts. It's on Meet the Press, and she's very guarded with what she says because they have to be, because it's not a friendly interview. And so you automatically know you just have 2 different worlds that these people are from, and more importantly, 2 different ways that they operate. Like, you just know, whatever I throw at Dan, like, I can talk to him about being arrested because he's told the whole world about getting arrested at 14 and being on drugs. So, like, Dan's not worried about anything I throw at him. Nikki, if I'm going to ask her a personal question, she's going to be guarded just by the very nature of the context. So you prepare differently that way. With Nikki, I had to go back and do a lot of personal research on her to try to make that personal connection. The open of that interview was talking to her about dealing with racism in America, in the 70s, because she was the only Indian American kid in her classroom. They didn't know if she was white, black, Latino. Like, these are her words. And the only Indian family in the entire, rural community that she grew up in South Carolina. So, you establish rapport with her by going into something that she rarely gets to talk about, because she's seen as obviously as a woman of power and influence. So that's the difference. And so you're going to get leadership content from her, and it's pretty much just leadership and personal. With Dan, you can get some entrepreneurship, you can get some personal stuff. It's just a wider range of content that you can get from him. From her, you're going to have to stay in her lane, because she's been in a power position in politics for most of her career. And so that's what you're drawing from. So now you got to go, what can I pull from her political context and experience that translates to a middle manager, or a young lady who wants to be in leadership, but she doesn't want to run for office. She just wants to run her company. So that's the difference in how you're mining for content, but you have to understand the unique context of it and keep it in her context. Because if you go outside of her context, it would feel like a disjointed conversation.
Can you speak to, like, taking it all the way back to where you started, where, you've developed confidence, you've put in the reps, you've developed experience, your career has led you to different places where you've created influence, your channel's got over 100,000 subscribers, plus it's distributed on audio. So, you're having Nikki Haley and Dan Martell on the show, and someone that's just starting is like, I have an aspiration to do this, but that first interview, and the question would be getting comfortable. How do you get comfortable and develop confidence to get into conversations with people of such high caliber? But also, what is the importance of, if you go back to your beginning, to developing the reps, maybe maybe early mistakes, failures you made, and for that individual that someday hopes to have a A1 podcast and realizing this could be a very legacy move. Not just that it's something you can make a living from, but just something that enriches your life, the connections you make, the relationships you make. This doesn't happen overnight. So what's been your journey of building your confidence, maybe making mistakes? Can you remember a mistake of being with somebody of higher influence and being like, man, I messed up there, and just the nature of putting in the reps and failing forward, if you will?
Relentless preparation leads to reflexive performance. I'm going to say it again. Relentless preparation leads to reflexive performance. Now, let me just unpack it briefly. I am answering your question. When I am putting so much time into the preparation of the interview and the questions, so the research and then the writing of the questions, and I get to that moment, no matter how nervous I am, our brain is a supercomputer. And I read something, Sean, once that said, even under the greatest of anxiety, our brain can still recall about 70% of what we put in it. Mm-hmm. And so you don't even have to, if you've got an iPad or your questions written out in front of you, you don't even have to worry about recall. And so what I did early on, the first interview I ever did was with Coach K, the legendary Hall of Famer for Duke, and I was the fill-in, but I was so prepared, and this was back in the day before we had iPads. They didn't even exist.
Be courageous, be bold, take the move and just do it.
I was seeing comments like it would be so much easier if there was an app that I could just stream into my TV.
The mobile app is the whole point of having this. It's supposed to be on the go. You're supposed to be able to download the videos to your phone.
The app pays for itself, essentially.
I thought these people that have been, we may really deserve an upgraded experience.
Now with Uscreen, I'm wanting to use the app more because of how good it looks and how easy it flows. Notifications happening on all the time because women are providing feedback, asking questions, engaging on the community. It's exciting every time I get to open up my app.
When we launched Buttons Plus with our Uscreen, right away, it exceeded my expectations.
They didn't even exist. And I'm sitting there with this legend, and I'm so nervous, Sean, I could barely swallow because I looked up to him. I was a big Duke fan, and I won't tell the long story because nobody cares. But here I am doing this for a John Maxwell simulcast, and I'm the backup because the TV guy that was supposed to do it couldn't do it, and I was helping him write the interview with the opportunity to go see Coach K. And all of a sudden, I'm thrust into this deal. But I had prepared so much. I had all my questions written out on 3x5 index cards. And I was prepared, Sean. So no matter how nervous I was, I could gather myself, look at my question on the card, and then spit it out. And what happened was about 2 questions in, I started ad-libbing. And I've told this story 1,000 times on podcasts. I wrote about it in the book One Question in that introduction. You probably remember me telling the story. But it got to a point where I felt like I was sitting in the hot tub with Coach K. I was so relaxed because I could see that he was enjoying it, and my questions were emitting really good responses, and all the preparation was taking over. So back to the statement of the relentless, just never stop preparing and get so prepared that in the moment, like Tom Brady or John Elway or your favorite quarterback who performs under pressure in the 2-minute drill with no timeouts, that's because for weeks on end they've been watching film. And then they practice the 2-minute drill. So they know the plays. They know what they're supposed to do. They know when to call a timeout. They know when to spike the ball. This is the relentless preparation, and it leads to reflexive performance where it looks like Tom Brady's pulse isn't even moving, and he's got a Super Bowl on the line. So in those early days at Catalyst, I was thrown into the boiler, and they trusted me, and the stakes were high. So I had to prepare because I was so nervous. And I found that the more I prepared, the less nervous I got prior to the interview. Now, when the moment came and I'm up on stage, in the early days, I was still nervous. But that was just that natural performative thing. The fact of the matter is I had that whole interview on an iPad then. By that point, we'd advanced to an iPad, and it was right there. And here's what's beautiful. Because I had prepared, and I knew where I was going, and I had the interview in front of me too, and it was so well thought out. I mean, it was boom, first question, second question. I'd write little parentheses, maybe a follow-up here. To this day, I still do that. I'll write follow-up, question mark, so that in the moment, there are moments where I visualize the interview, and I'm going, there might be a nice little rabbit trail here. But here's what was beautiful. I was so prepared, Sean, that I loosened up once the interview got started. And my questions, again, began to prove to me in the moment, these are good questions because they're getting good answers and the guest is locked in and they're engaged and they're giving good stuff so that I could then ad lib. Because if I go to lunch with you, I'm not looking at questions on my phone. I'm going to ask Sean a question about his wife and kids. That's where we're going to start. And you're going to tell me a little bit about your wife, and that might create a follow-up question. Oh, really? How long has she been doing that? And he told me about the kids. And there are going to be natural follow-up questions when you have lunch with somebody. And what makes that beautiful is because you're engaged with them, you're confident about where you want to go, what you want to ask them. And then that your answer sparks another question. Well, when you're prepared and your interview's laid out in front of you, there are some thoughts that you can go in the moment. No, I don't think that's a good follow-up. That's just me personally. I'd like to, if it was just me and Coach Dungy, and we're having pizza, I'm going to go, tell me about that guy. Was he a real jerk? I'm not going to do that because my mind goes, wait a second, what does the audience want? What do they need? They don't need to know that. That's Ken Coleman wanting to know about that linebacker. Nobody else in here wants to know about the linebacker. And so you can also delete a thought, but have the presence of mind to do that. But then when another thought comes up and goes, oh, I need to ask him, what did it feel like in those first few days when they fired him from Tampa and he had a winning record? Now people won't know that because there are pastors out there that have been fired or people that have been passed over for a position. How do you handle that? That's a real sense of rejection, coach. How did you process that? Now that people want to know. So relentless preparation leads to reflexive performance. I've not had a lot of boo-boos, nothing major, nothing really embarrassing that I can recall. There have been a few times where I didn't do as good a research as I should have. In other words, I thought I saw something and I used it, but I didn't double check it. I've had a couple mistakes like that embarrassed me. They weren't big deals because I owned it. But that's a thing where, as an interviewer, don't cite something with a guest that you read or saw that you didn't verify. And I've done that at least a handful of times. And it pisses me off every time I do it because it's like, I should have verified that.
Yeah, that's good. I'm curious, how much time do you spend preparing for interviews? And maybe it's a range on your show. And I don't know if you can leak some upcoming guests, but maybe you give a case study of somebody you're preparing for in the real time now. How much time would you invest in maybe researching a guest?
Yeah, I'm really excited about Jefferson Fisher's coming out. Jefferson's exploded on the scene on Instagram. That's pretty much his primary platform. He's a trial lawyer in the personal injury space, crazy enough, but he doesn't even seem like a personal injury lawyer, what you'd think. But he's been in his car for years now, about 3 years, just doing videos on how to communicate better, and he's blown up on Instagram. Here's a guy that's done thousands of videos.
Overlapping appointments? Streamline scheduling with Biggin's built-in booking pages. Try Biggin.
Fraudulently claiming more income than you're receiving.
The accountant is back.
You accuse me of money laundering? I will dislocate your shoulder. It's quite painful.
But this time, he brought his brother.
You do the talking. At least I hit him harder than I thought.
Do you like puzzles, Mr. Wolf?
I really?
Thank you. Rated R. Special text day screening April 15.
So he's covered a lot. So the research on that took a little bit longer after we figured out what we thought we wanted to ask the team. What do we think our audience wants to know from him? So I started thinking about the workplace. So I wanted to, ask him about how do you communicate up to a boss? How do you challenge your boss without putting them on the defensive? And he was like, oh. So, I hit him with some stuff that I don't think he's done a video on before. So the research on that one, a little bit more detailed, a little longer. But you're right, it does depend on the guest, number one, and it depends on your comfort level. Back to what I just said a minute ago. Relentless preparation leads to reflexive performance. As I was telling you all that, I said I could tell that I was ready as the nerves went away in the prep. The more comfortable I got with what I think the interview was, then I knew I'm ready. So a lot of this is feel, if you're a visual person like I am. Now, again, some of the people watching this, Sean, and listening to this, they're so new at this. They're like, well, I just like to be real and from the seat of my pants. Okay, but you better be really good at asking questions from the seat of your pants. I'm good at asking questions from the seat of my pants, but that's because I've been doing it a really long time. And my pulse is so flat when I interview somebody. And I've been with a lot of celebrities too. So the more you're with a celebrity, the more relaxed you become. In other words, now you're just like, I've done this before, and they're just a regular person. If I come and I do a good job, they're going to answer my questions. So you get less and less kind of built up by, oh, this is a big name. So I hope that helps there, but it's going to be case by case. Your personal comfort level and your guest is going to determine how much of that preparation from a research standpoint that you're doing. And then as far as writing the interview, again, that's going to come down to your work methods, I guess, is how I would say that.
So when you have a chance to maybe watch somebody else, especially even your research process, maybe you watch a different interview, or maybe you're sitting in the audience when somebody else is conducting an interview at a conference.
Oh, this is the worst for me.
I'm curious. The things you're observing, the biggest mistakes you see people making during interviews. I'm sure there's many, and we can learn a lot of juicy information from just maybe how it starts, what happens in the middle, how it ends?
Asking the same question 2 or 3 times. I like to call it over asking. So they're sitting there and they're asking Sean a question. So I'll flip the tables. Okay. So the question, I'm going to role play. So I'm interviewing Sean, and I'm going to ask Sean about specifically the environment on YouTube right now to launch a channel, and what it's like now to make a successful channel go. Okay, so that's what I'm going to ask. All right, Sean, I mean, YouTube's been out now for a while, obviously, massive success. I read things, maybe the biggest platform, biggest search engine in the world I think I've seen. And it feels like we've reached a maturity. It's gone through a lot of different stages. If we look at the environment today on YouTube, I'm curious to know how easy is it to stand out and actually build something? Because, you think about this, you got a lot of people that are starting YouTube channels every day. And, I think it's probably like an entrepreneur who starts something and, they quit too soon. And so I'm just curious, what you think about today's environment. Because I think a lot of people actually would like to know, Sean, is it 30 days? Is it 90 days? See what I've done? I've asked the same question 3 different times. That kills me. Like, I should lead with, Sean, is there a rule of thumb right now on the amount of time someone should commit to just seeing if their channel idea is viable? Now, that's a good question. Get out of the way. Let Sean answer. Now, if I thought of something else while you're giving me the answer, then I follow that up. But I just tried to, because here's what was happening there. They weren't prepared in their question. Then their nerves took over, little insecurity. Maybe Sean was looking at me and he didn't smile. So I thought, I should re-ask it. So that's one I see a lot. The other one I see a lot is bad body language by the interviewer. They're just real stiff and you can tell they're nervous. And to me, it's, if I'm at a live event, I have to think of the audience when I'm the host and I'm doing the interview. You've been to live events and seen me do this at Summit. I'm looking at the audience. I mean, the person's talking to me and I'm looking out here because I want to see how I hear something in the audience. I want to see how the audience are. They said something funny or really great. I'll look at the audience. I want the audience to see me as them. And so I'm real physical, leaning in, like, because you got to know that the audience is watching you on stage with this person. You're part of the deal. They're eavesdropping in on a conversation, not an avatar asking questions. That one drives me crazy when I see a stiff interviewer and they don't seem to be engaged physically with their face all the way down. And then the third thing that drives me crazy is when you can tell they didn't really listen to the answer and they were just focused on their next question because there was gold right there. I mean, like, and I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, follow up on that.
Crown is a global company. We have headquarters in Germany, in New Zealand, in China.
So we definitely work with people from bigger cities, bigger communities, a more diverse population. It's really amazing how worldwide we are and all the different teams that interact from across the globe every day. I'm really excited to see what products Crown pushes in the future and what products I can be a part of.
Are taxes still on your to-do list? Get them done for you. We'll match you with the right tax expert for your needs. Our experts have an average of 12 years of experience. Connect with them in real time, and they can finish as soon as today. Ask any question. Even on nights and weekends during tax season, your expert is backed by a team of experts. And they'll only sign once it's 100% accurate. Get your taxes done for you from start to finish with TurboTax Full Service.
Like, that's for me personally, it's the missed follow-up is, to me, where all great interviews go to die. I mean, you can have a pretty good interview laid out and a good guest, and you miss some follow-ups, and it just, you miss the magic, man. Some of my favorite questions I've ever asked, I didn't plan to ask. But that's because I'm so prepared that I'm able to actually listen. I'm not nervous about my next question. I already know what my next question is, unless the guest gives me a better one. And that's the jam. Like, if you're really tuned in you can feel the audience tell you, stay where you're at, stay there, don't move on.
Do you try to come up with a rhythm of stories? How important are stories, as well as maybe tactics and shorter answers when you think about the narrative arc of a really great interview? And let's talk in a leadership context, because in some cases it might be almost entirely stories. It's getting to know the person personally. But we're tactical on this podcast. Yours sounds like it's a blend because it's got how do I practically level up, get promoted, become better. How do you think about the mix between, there's this famous phrase that it says facts tell, but stories sell. That sometimes too, stories are so powerful, but also practicals are powerful. What do you think about the rhythm and the blend you're trying to create?
Yeah, it's a good question, but I will tell you, I don't have a formula. I'm not looking at the finished product going, oh, I think I'm a little story light. I need to ask them for one more story. I don't do that because, again, I think the process that I shared with you earlier dictates whether or not it's a give me a hard opinion on this versus a story. Now, what I will say to you is, I think that, and by the way, that's a really good question for your audience. I hope they rewind, catch what he just asked. Because I think what matters most is not the blend of story versus tactical, practical stuff. It's actually context to the person. So, for instance, I mentioned Condoleezza Rice. I'll mention George W. Bush. I interviewed George W. Bush for the same conference. George W. Bush, you're not going to ask him a lot of practical, tactical things. You're just not. And the reason is twofold. That's not how he communicates, number one. And number two, he's a former president. You got 8 years of being the president of the United States, and then the rest of his life being raised by a president of the United States. He's going to default to story. So to the extent that you can take him with a very tactical question, but allows him to tell a story that will actually answer it, there's your win. So for instance, I asked him, and I'm paraphrasing, I'd have to pull up the tape to give you the exact, but I asked him 9/11. You got to ask him about 9/11. You have to. But he's been interviewed, and you've seen him be interviewed by 9/11. So what am I going to bring Sean to the table? So the way I did it was this. I said, I can only imagine, I said, none of us can imagine the weight that you were feeling. We've heard you, we've heard this timeline, we've read the timeline, you've written about it, we've heard you talk about it. What I want to know is, and I think these leaders in this room need to know from you, is how did you mentally process all of these unknowns coming at you with the fact that you've got to lead, and the American people are looking at you for strength and on some level some certainty, and yet in that first 24 hours it just had to be a ton of just uncertain things coming your way, and you've got to project strength, something along those lines. Okay, so here's what's beautiful. Okay, he starts talking about some of the highlight stuff that we know, and he's in the plane. They take him to, I think he said New Mexico, or he's on the ground. He's like, get me back. Finally said, get me back to D.C. because he had listened to Secret Service all day long. And he finally said, I'm the frickin' leader of the free world. Get me back to D.C. The American people need to see me in D.C. Okay. So I think we'd all heard that before. So he takes us back to D.C. and takes us to the White House. He said, when we finally got there, the first thing they did is they took me down to the bunker and said, this is where you guys are going to stay tonight. And if there's anything, and he looked at me and he said, Ken, I've never told anybody this before. I mean, listen to me, folks. That's what you want. You want somebody like George W. Bush to go, I've never said this before. But the only reason I got him there, it wasn't some little magical trick. It's that I took him into a depth of that question and the setup of that depth to where he got there. And he told the story, I got to tell you now. And he goes, they took me to this little bedroom where Harry Truman had put up first time. It's this little teeny tiny bed. And he said, is that bed for me? And they said, yes, sir. And he goes, nope, I'm not sleeping in that bed. You all can wake me up and drag me down here 7 times tonight, but I'm going up to my bed. And the crowd loved it, and it was this moment where he was like, I'm not going to, I need sleep so that I can lead tomorrow. And that was a powerful story of a guy who just knew, I got to get some rest because what's about to happen tomorrow, there's no playbook for that. So I hope that helps. I mean, with him, you're going to go more story. With a Simon Sinek, you're going to go more philosophy and theory, and then he'll share a story on his own, if that makes any sense.
Downey showed this NFL mom a social video calling her son sweaty and stinky.
I didn't raise him like that. I'm going down there now. Ooh, come on, Josh. Downy Rinse and Refresh to help get the stink out.
Yeah, you might have been right. Rinse it out with Downy Rinse and Refresh.
Running a creator business is overwhelming. Constant content creation, community management, juggling of platforms, and unpredictable income. There has to be an easier way to monetize through memberships. Enter Uscreen. Hands down, the best all-in-one membership platform designed specifically for video creators. We help you generate consistent subscription revenue without losing your mind, with powerful monetization features, easy distribution across devices with a branded membership site and apps, sleek video organization and streaming capabilities, and community tools built to engage and retain more customers. Uscreen gives you the power to connect with your audience like never before, and the VIP treatment from our team of experts on hand to help you every step of the way. To make consistent, reliable revenue while keeping full control of the brand and business you've worked so hard to build. Start your membership journey with Uscreen today.
Context of the person. I mean, it's brilliant. And if you get it wrong, like if you were pushing for tactics in the wrong room versus maybe you want to play to the individual strength, which is all going to come back to research and preparedness so you can deliver the best interview possible. Well, there's a few other things I want to ask you as we land the plane. And in the context of Front Row Seat, your new show, but speaking to the listener who's thinking about, okay, I know I want to do a video podcast. I know I want to get into this game. Maybe I'm currently doing one. I feel stuck. I also just feel like, man, the big question being, how do I find my difference? How do I craft a show? How do I also not just be an echo, but try to be a voice? Listening maybe narratively through you architecting this new vision for something that's been on your heart for a while. And maybe if you apply it to just some tips and takeaways for individuals to make their conversation stronger, but their overall strategy stronger and their vision stronger, because competition is no joke. And there is a lot of competition. There is a lot of options. And if you want to carve out your audience and find your 1,000 true fans, what are some thoughts? What are you doing with Front Row Seat and what could we learn from that?
Yeah, so we're doing some things with format that make it different because, as you know, when I first got into this game in 2007, I mean, podcasting was brand new. We launched the Catalyst podcast. Nobody knew what a podcast was. In fact, we actually had iPods. So you got a bunch of your audience that are going, what's an iPod? Well, it was really cool, and it came with a U2 album, too, when you bought it. So that was like a big deal back then. I'm dating myself, but here's what we've done. When we started this new format, and this is an idea that I've had for a long time because I've always been, I love television. Television is my favorite format, so now we call it video. I mean, young people don't even watch TV. They watch their phones. They watch YouTube. All right, so Front Row Seat, what's different about it? Because we had to go, there's a million interview shows and really good ones. What are we going to do? And so we crafted a format differentiator, which doesn't really change the content that much, but it makes it unique enough that I think we're going to stand out. So here's what we've decided to do. We are going to shoot a lot of in-person interviews where I'm with the person. We've got a beautiful studio here in Nashville and at our headquarters at Ramsey Solutions. And the team built this out. They took my vision for it and they built it out. And it's got a beautiful, it's just in a box, but it's this beautiful black background. Well, we got these awesome bar, like miniature, not miniature, but they're full-size bars, but they're like standalone pieces of furniture. We got really cool lamps on them. We've got whiskey and bourbon bottles and all kinds of things on there. And it has the feel of a pub. And we got 2 leather chairs they're not gigantic. They look really cool. They're worn. Got one of my favorite side tables for my house. It's got a lot of character. We got 2 copper cups, again, promoting warmth, but a feel that like there's an air of depth to this. Like this is nice leather. We got, there's some intentionality to the feel of the set. That's one little thing. The second unique thing is we're filming these in front of a live audience. Now, not a live audience that's sitting in a bleacher or in chairs watching us, but an audience that surrounds us. So I don't know if you've seen the trailer or not, but it looks like I want it to feel. In other words, I want when people watch this to go, oh, he took the velvet rope and got rid of it and said, come on. And I want to invite people in. And then we're going to do a virtual format where if I was interviewing you right now, Sean, around us would be people. Just like we've seen on group Zooms or whatever. Tony Robbins kind of made it popular. And the difference is the audience gets a chance to ask a question. At any time during the interview, the audience can raise their hand. And we move the mic over to them and the camera over to them, and they get to ask a question. So that's a format.
Elevate your space with up to 60 days of fragrance with Glade Max Control. Adjustable scent for any size room. S.C. Johnson.
The future isn't waiting. It's being built by challengers like you, the ones who turn ambition into action, who build trust and forge deeper connections, those who are out to change the game and never stand still. Microsoft can help fuel your business's boldest ideas with AI tools and guidance that lets you say, bring it on. Microsoft, challengers, welcome.
Differentiator. Are people going to tune in to hear real people ask questions? Maybe down the road. But it is a format differentiator, and then eventually we're going to take it on the road and do it in pubs, turn it into a mixer. Because I want the show itself to be not just a show for the masses out here, but I want to create a mixer mentality. So the math on this show, and some of you are old enough to know this math, the others you have to look it up, but it's Inside the Actors Studio meets Masterclass meets MTV Unplugged. That's the feel. So you resonated with that because you're old enough to know all 3 of those things. But when I say that to you, you get it immediately. Correct?
Yes, absolutely.
I know you've seen it. So I'm telling it. So come up with a math. Come up with a show math. Like before you ever launch it, go, it's this, meets this, meets this. And what that will force you to do to the heart of your question is to create a really unique DNA around your show, because there's a million shows out there. So the more unique it is to you and what you want to create, the better. And that's what we did. You know me, Sean. We've known each other a very, very long time. This was cool. We had a 25-year-old gal on our team. She was uploading the show into all the Spotify's, and like that's her job on the team. She gets shows, and she hadn't seen anything yet. And when she saw the show, she commented to her leader, "This is like Ralph Lauren has an interview show." And I was so thrilled to hear that, because without her knowing anything, that was in our mood board, and that was something that, I said I want it to feel like it's got the weight of you walked into a Ralph Lauren store. We thought about the design and the way it feels. So anyway, I think that's the formula.
So I want to see if anything stands out to you additionally, and I'm going to recap some of this and try to contextualize it for our listeners.
Okay.
You don't need Think Podcast community. Even if you don't have resources, every single one of these points is an opportunity. One, the format itself. Like, yes, there's other shows, but how could the format be a little bit different? What could be a new format? Also, what do you want it to feel like? So the feel of the show, so powerful. People connect with the emotions of a show. Then what about the set and design? And even if you're doing virtual, that's what this podcast is. As you're thinking about your background, you could be thinking about your dress, your aesthetic. You could be thinking about intro music. What is the set, the design of your show, which kind of ties into this idea of branding. How are you going to brand your show to be different? Then I would think about the vision. I love that Ken's breaking down, man, eventually this could go on the road. Eventually this, because things are going to be a progression. Don't let your small YouTube channel make you small-minded. Don't let your small town make you small-minded. Don't let your small business make you small-minded. Just because you're starting maybe with a USB microphone, one light, a webcam, and some virtual software, what could your show turn into? Ken's starting with more resources, but eventually being able to take this on the road. There's a movement that could gather around it. That pub feel is what you have designed, Ken, but that can expand. And so there's a future vision for the show. And then show math. What a cool idea to think about. Oftentimes I think if we're trying to be original, we're overwhelmed because we're trying to like create something from absolutely nothing, as opposed to really this kind of remix idea. If you just add 3 different things together, they're all unique in their own right, but you're combining those elements into your show. Now you're going to carve out a unique DNA. And so if it's this plus this plus this, when I think about maybe Hot Ones, and they just said, well, okay, there's a lot of interview shows, but we're going to sit down and eat hot wings while interviewing these individuals. Yes, and it turned into be this smash hit. And I even think about Jubilee, which is getting incredible views by surrounding an individual with oftentimes polarizing opinions and having 25 atheists versus 1 Christian apologist, or 25 Democrats versus, and they've created these millions of views. And it's because of dealing with different format. And I love that you mentioned you're even going to tie this in virtual, because one of our ethics at the Think Media podcast is it's never about your resources. It's about your resourcefulness. Starting today with what you have, and then realizing that someday, maybe you could rent a studio space, get a studio audience, tap into new formats like Jubilee is doing or Front Row Seat is doing. Now, I just did a whole breakdown, Ken. Did anything else come to mind in terms of, what you're doing, your strategy, maybe how you're picking guests that's going to make your show a little bit different that we could learn from and add to that list?
I think that there's 2 types of things that we are looking at. We're looking at A-list names, of course. That's what everybody wants to get. But A-list conversations are just as important to me. And I told the team that. I said, we're going to have people on the show that nobody's ever heard of. But, man, trust me, they're going to be glad that they had heard of them from us. And we're going to introduce them to some voices that have A-list content. There's a big difference between A-list name and A-list conversation. And so that's one thing that we're looking at. The second thing, by the way, you did a great breakdown, but the only other thing I would add to that is something I didn't say, and I should have said it. All of that stuff that you laid out is absolutely right. But at the end of the day, content is king, and content will always be king. And if you do a really good conversation, and when we talked about how to do a good interview, but if you do a good job there, you're going to stick around.
Original eau de parfum and Le New, the new alcohol-free citrus floral fragrance, Yves Saint Laurent.
It's just that simple, because so many people are doing conversations, but a lot of them are crap. And if you become really good, so I'm confident we're going to carve out our space. I know it's a crowded world. I was doing it early, and then I got away from the interview format for years. Glad I did. Went out and did a whole different thing. Coming back to it because I love it. I think we've got a vision for this, which you can see. But because I want what's unique about this for me is I want the audience to get the same privilege that I get. And so it's not just a little format thing I'm trying to be cute with. I literally want to be the guy who opens up the opportunity to use a question the way that I've been blessed to use questions. And that's why the audience matters to me. That Inside the Actor Studio show was so brilliant because, James Lipton, quirky professor, But he cuts a deal with Bravo and brings in these actors, and all of his film students are sitting in the audience theater style. And after he got done with the interview, these young film students got to ask questions. One of my favorite clips is a young Bradley Cooper standing up and asking a question, I believe, to Robin Williams. And years later, Bradley Cooper was a guest on that same stage. I get goosebumps thinking about that. You know, the idea of leveling the playing field and allowing an audience to come in and have the same privilege that I get to ask really accomplished people questions that matter, that matters to me. So, you know, don't do format for the sake of format. Do format with a purpose, and I think it'll win.
It brings it full circle, and I have actually one final question, which I'm actually maybe more excited about than any other question in just a second. Good. Plus, I want you to shout out your roll call of how we could follow all of your stuff. But that's full circle back to it's all about the conversation and developing this skill set of becoming a confident interviewer. What's going to ultimately skyrocket your show's growth? I think about the proverb that says, if you see someone who's skilled at what they do, they'll serve before kings, not common men.
Ooh.
And this idea that it's like, if you develop this skill, and even with the roughest equipment and the, most limited resources, if you develop the skill of really great interviewing, really great conversations, being obsessed with adding value to the audience, and then just doing it a lot over time, then it's like cream always rises to the top, no matter how many cups of coffee you pour. This thing is going to rise, and you can have longevity in video podcasting. And it's a good time to do it with, yes, a lot of competition, but this stuff is just the beginning still. I mean, Spotify, Netflix, YouTube is taking podcasting so seriously. In their fourth quarter earnings call, they mentioned podcasting 4 times. They broke revenue records. They said a lot of people are watching podcasts on their smart TVs in their living rooms while they're cooking dinner. We just went through the quote unquote podcast election. It is now expected, I'm sure, for future years that there will be long form conversations in every situation, that we will just expect that people, politicians, business leaders, that we're going to want to see them in this environment. It's just a new format that's now accessible. And so that for listeners, there's a massive opportunity to get into the game, develop your skills. I have this final question, but before we get there, shout out your stuff. We'll link it up in the show notes, but where can people follow you, connect with you on the various platforms, as well as follow the new show?
Sure. KenColeman.com is the place to connect with me on everything, obviously, but on YouTube, just search Front Row Seat with Ken Coleman, Instagram at Ken Coleman, Ken Coleman on the socials, but certainly YouTube for the show is Front Row Seat, and on podcast, your favorite app, it's Front Row Seat with Ken Coleman. You can get it all those places.
So I want to get your take on this question. It might sound funny the way I worded it first, and give you a second to think about it. But what are, in your mind, the best banger books you've ever read? This actually came out of a conversation I had with Noah Kagan, and I know you read leadership, you read communication, and my personal conviction is that readers are leaders. And so I'm always looking from somebody that's developed mastery like you. There's so many great books, or there's tons of good books, so many we should read. But he said banger. He was like, this one's a banger, this one's a banger, this one. And it made me think, like, it's just kind of that list, like, oh man, if I had to just, and he rattled off like 7. As many as come to mind, you think about those pivotal books that are going to help me level up, go to that next level, help our listeners. And maybe it ties into this conversation, and maybe it just ties into those were pivotal life shifting moments. When I read that, it really influenced me. What books come to mind, Ken?
Yeah, I'll start as early as I can remember, just crazy good books that shaped me. Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty by the envelope magnate Harvey Mackay. He's written several best-selling books, but that book my dad got for me as a graduating senior in high school. Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty, the art of developing deep relationships so that when you need them most, you're not looking for them. You can call them at 3 a.m. That was a profound, simple read, but a banger book for me. I would have to say a couple recently that I read. Nobody's heard of this book. It's called Barking Up the Wrong Tree by a guy that's a little-known research journalist. But it is all about success and winning in multiple areas, and it does all this research and it says, well, we thought this about how to handle fear, but this is actually how you handle it. Phenomenal data in it. I think it's an absolute banger. Another one that most people don't know, but a fabulous book called Top Dog, The Science of Winning and Losing. Poe Bronson co-wrote this. Poe's famous for writing What Should I Do With My Life? But this book is, again, he co-authors it with, I believe, a physicist. But it is just, it's the science of winning and losing, like in life. It's phenomenal. I love it. I love it. Another banger is, I think, one of the best biographies I've ever read on Thomas Jefferson by Nashvilleian and Pulitzer Prize winner John Meacham. It's called The Art of Power. And for me, it's a banger because it does a real deep dive analysis on one of our founding fathers, a controversial founding father, certainly, but also a very influential founding father. And it's largely from his letters that he wrote.
When you see what it's really like when our skin touches wool, you see why we need Downy. Adding Downy to your wash not only makes your clothes feel softer on your skin, it breathes life into your laundry.
It's time to begin the hunt. To share the excitement and bake your tails off.
Endless ways to Easter M&Ms.
So it's if you love reading about famous people who have flaws, but nonetheless overcame a lot, did amazing things that span the test of time, that's a great one. And then I'll finish with this one. I've got more. I'm trying to keep it succinct. An absolute banger, and it's the smallest banger book of all time. It's a little teeny book about this big. It's called Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon, who's in Austin, Texas. And I had the privilege of interviewing him years ago on the Entre Leadership podcast. That book has shaped me as much as any book I've ever read. And it's a little easy read. And I don't even know if you could consider it a book, but it is awesome. So those would be bangers for me.
Man, such a great list. And I'll make sure that all of those are in the show notes, as well as Ken's resources. And I would add to the list your book, Ken, Proximity Principle. I talk about all the time. We actually just did a 2-day YouTube mastermind in Las Vegas. And one of the sessions was kind of more 3 principles that really changed my life and helped me scale. One was scared money don't make money. One was the importance of vision, but one was the proximity principle. And man, it's such a powerful principle and a powerful book. And so I would recommend a couple things to Think Media Podcast listeners. If any of those resonated with you, check out some of those resources and books in the show notes. There's also another conversation that Ken and I did that was very powerful on the Think Media Podcast, which would be a great follow-up listen that will also link in the show notes. And then check out his resources and his new show. And I want to thank you again for being a listener to the podcast. If you got value today, like, rate, share, review, wherever you watch or listen. My name is Sean Cannell, your guide to building a profitable YouTube channel. And I cannot wait to connect with you in a future episode. How is it that you have built this $80K a year business on YouTube?
We've tried a lot of different things. Right now, our main source of revenue is a lot of people are like, oh, I want to grow my Instagram or I want to grow my TikTok. And I think those are great. For me, I've been able to grow my revenue and my YouTube channel faster, I believe, because we've had that email list.
I want to hear about the video series strategy.
I can break this one idea up into a 5-video series. And most likely the person that watches video 1 in the series is going to want to watch the rest because they've already shown interest in it.
What are your tips for busy creators and entrepreneurs that are making excuses that they don't have enough time? Our guest today is going to be revealing how she started a free Bible study YouTube channel and has turned it into an $80,000 a year business without compromising her ministry mission. We're also going to be focusing on why she focuses on video series on YouTube instead of viral one-offs, and how this approach has built her 77,000 subscriber community. We're also going to look at a strategy that grew her channel from 20,000 to 30,000 subscribers with just 12 videos during a year of health struggles. Life is always uncertain and unpredictable, but you can still be consistent on YouTube, and we're going to be getting insights about how she did that, as well as why she has a nonprofit and a business, some of her experience with publishing and self-publishing on Amazon KDP, and also how she has learned at certain times in her journey to record videos at night while her kids are sleeping, and figuring out how to stay consistent over the years and also have grace for running her own pace on YouTube. I'm excited for today's conversation with Christina Patterson. Now, if you're just meeting her, she's a multifaceted entrepreneur, Bible teacher, author, and she's passionate about empowering women both professionally and spiritually. She has a couple different YouTube channels. Beloved Women is her main channel, and she's built an awesome community and has really been doing YouTube for a lot of years. So this is going to be a power-packed episode of insights for how to grow your own channel, start your own channel. And so, Christina, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Sean. It's always great to be here.
So I want to get into your story in a little bit, but let's start with kind of the promise of the episode title and the big question. How is it that you have built this $80K a year business on YouTube? What are your income streams, and how does that all work?
Yeah, well, our mission is always to encourage women in the love of Jesus Christ and the truth of God's word by providing free videos and content specifically on YouTube. And we learned very early on, however, that just because content is free for your viewers to consume, it is not free to produce. So we had to get really smart about being able to still generate income so that we could sustain the mission that we feel called to do. And so we have a few streams of revenue. We've tried a lot of different things, courses, a app membership, Bible study guides on Amazon, KDP self-publishing, and things of this such. Right now, our main source of revenue is our app membership. And it's a beautiful thing because it enables us to serve our community a little bit deeper, but also still generate revenue so that we can serve our entire community as a whole.
And what is that app called, and what is how much is it a month or a year for people as being kind of your main source of revenue?
It is called the Beloved Women app. You can search it up on the Apple or Google Play stores. It's $14.99 a month and a little over $100 for the year.
And when did you launch that?
We launched that app in 2019 or 2020? I can't remember off the top of my head. Sorry.
And how did you build an app? If listeners are like, you made an app, was that tough?
Well, it stretched us a lot, actually. I worked with several app developers. First with Vimeo OTT. They were the first app developer that we worked with to create like a membership subscription app. And then we are now with VidApp in conjunction with Kajabi. And we're actually in the next few months going to be moving the app to solely Kajabi, because Kajabi does apps now as well. And so these are just different app developers that we've worked with. And so they do a lot of the work. I just have to make sure that we have the income to pay for it.
To pay the service fee as the software as a service, essentially.
Yes. And so apps are very expensive, especially back then. Now I'm seeing those prices going down as more people, especially entrepreneurs, coaches, nonprofits, are actually seeing the value in developing an app for their services. But yeah, we had to like start small. We started on webs first before we built the app out, made sure we had enough members to support purchasing an app. And then once we had enough revenue to make sure that we could do that, then we actually had the app built out.
I love that. Now, one of the things I want to drill down on is you're saying we. Can you speak to who we is if you've got a team today? But also, you know, we'll unpack your story more, but how we has progressed. Like if early on it was, you know, just you and a spouse, or what has been the journey?
Early on, before the app and all things, it was just me recording videos at night, as you mentioned, while my kids were asleep, because that was the only time that I had to do it. My husband definitely helps out a lot. He's actually a computer engineer, which worked out perfectly for me. So he's able to really like help out a lot with the behind the scenes tech things that nobody knows about. And then probably around the same time as launching the app, I brought in my friend Kirsten. She's our ministry coordinator, so she helps a lot with admin and like community management and things like that. And we've had video editors over the years as well, which was extremely helpful because that takes up so much time. I love editing videos, but it just takes up so much time, and I would prefer to be playing Legos with my son.
Yeah, I love that. So you reached your first 1,000 subscribers in about a year, but I actually kind of want to go back on the timeline here, because it was the year you took things seriously. But when did you officially start the channel? What was your life like then? And then how much time progressed before you kind of took it to the next level and took YouTube a little more seriously?
Yeah, I started the channel in 2013. That's when I created my YouTube channel, and my daughter was 1. I didn't have my son yet, and I just sat down at the kitchen table. I opened up my webcam, and I just recorded a video, and it was horrible. I don't even think I have it live on my channel anymore because I was so embarrassed, but I just thought, like, I can just flip over my camera and just start talking, and I did, but it wasn't very structured or well thought out. But I got started. I had to start somewhere, and so I had my daughter, then we ended up moving. I had my son. And so from 2013 to 2016, I was just trying to navigate having 2 children. And so I would post sometimes, or I think there was probably an entire year, 2014, when my son was born, where I just didn't do anything at all, just trying to navigate that season. And then it wasn't until 2016 where I had the idea to do a Bible study series. And I did a series of videos, and the channel started to really grow because I was becoming more consistent in posting. And so that's kind of where things took off with our actual growth as a channel.
I am curious back to the why and the inspiration. Like in 2013, what was sort of your mindset? What got you even thinking about opening up your laptop, turning on the webcam, and recording a video?
Yeah. You know, Sean, not many people know this about me, but before I had kids, I actually had a job, and I was a grant specialist at the U.S. Department of State. Me and my husband used to live in the D.C. area before all where we are now. And my heart has always been for nonprofit work. And because my mom used to work at she still does actually, the American Red Cross my entire life. And just seeing how much impact that made in people's lives, I knew that I always wanted to do the same. I always wanted to be like mission driven, impact focused with whatever work that I was doing. And so when I left that job, because we started having kids, and me and my husband just decided it's probably best for us to have at least one of us home. And at that time, I had no idea what I was doing, and I really needed to just cling close to the Lord at that time, because I was like, working at the Department of State was easier than being a mom. And that was a pretty like intense job. And so I was just doing my devotions every morning, and then it was just on my heart to start sharing it. I started a blog. Well, my friend encouraged me. She was like, you should start a blog. And I was like, what's that? what that was. I started a blog, turned into a podcast, and then that's around when in 2013 I found out about YouTube, and it was just really on my heart to like start a YouTube channel. But I looked at YouTube and I was like, there aren't Christians here. Like pastors were not posting their sermons on YouTube back then. So I was just like, I'm kind of out here all by myself. I don't know how this is going to turn out. But I went ahead, pressed record, and it turned out amazing.
Man, I love hearing about your story. And then later on, the idea of a Bible study hit you in 2016, and you started to be more consistent. Now your channel has over 2 million views. Do you remember when your channel first got monetized and what that felt like? Being like, whoa, I'm getting actually paid a few dollars from YouTube, or maybe a few cents when you only get those first few views. But
it was.
what was that?
I had, I did a book review on a book from Priscilla Schreier called Fervent. And she's like really big in the women's ministry space. And so that video did well for me. And I remember looking at my AdSense because at that time, you didn't have to like qualify. You just had to apply. So I had applied for the partner program and I made it, but I wasn't making any money. And then I looked at my analytics and that video had made 2 cents. And I remember being like, oh, people make money online? Like this is a thing? And I just remember thinking like, if I just make more videos, I can make more money. And I was like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so then that was before YouTube required 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 hours of watch time within a 12-month period of time. So then you actually lost monetization, right. And then you had to re-get in. Do you remember when you got into the new terms?
It probably would have been around that 2016 mark. I can't remember. It was 2016, 2017 when I was consistent. It didn't take me long to get back into it. I think I just didn't have the watch hours. And so I was like, okay, let's just post more videos and we can get the watch hours. And it didn't take long. It took longer actually for them to approve. The approval process was like super long, even once you qualified.
I love that. Well, I'm still excited to get into some stuff about seasons and taking breaks, as well as tactics even that you've learned for getting views, your strategy of creating video series. But I want to go a little bit deeper into some of the ways you've earned money. And one of the ways is publishing. Your book, Relentless Joy, became a #1 Amazon bestseller in 2 categories. Take us back, though. Was it true that you got rejected by actual publishers? So how did you kind of have this experience of discovering self-publishing and how that is turned into an opportunity for revenue and an opportunity for listeners maybe that is outside of something they've thought about before?
Yeah, for sure. Outside of those 2 cents that I made in AdSense, self-publishing was the second way that I generated income online. And I had went to a conference, like a Christian speaker women's conference or whatever, because I thought that in order to have this impact that I want to have in women's lives, I need to be speaking on stages and I need a traditional publisher. And so I went to this conference and I spoke to agents. I had a book that I had written that I wanted to publish, and I just knew that this book was going to be hot. They were going to be knocking my door down trying to get me a publishing deal until it got rejected by 3 different publishers. And I remember just feeling devastated because I felt stuck because the publishers were like, well, you need more speaking engagements in order to be able to get a publishing deal with us. And then conferences were like, well, you need to have a traditional publisher before you can actually speak on our stages. And I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? I don't have either. So I feel like I can't start anywhere. And during that time, like, I wanted to just kind of give up the idea, but I just felt like God really placed it on my heart. Keep talking and sharing on YouTube, keep speaking on YouTube, and go ahead and self-publish the book. Anyways, like, it was like God had gave me that message for a reason. And even though it wasn't traditionally published, I still felt called to make sure that I at least did my part to make sure that it was out in the world. I couldn't control the results as far as how many people bought it or how many people saw it, but I could control the fact that I pressed publish and made it available. And so I did that, and that was the first book that I published. It was called Daughters of Fire. And then to promote it, I did a video series on YouTube. So you could buy the book and then you could watch the video series for free on YouTube. And that actually ended up working really well. And we use that format to this day, where we will self-publish Bible study guides, and then we will have free video series on the YouTube channel so that people can follow along with us. And so I don't even like promote the Bible study guides that much in the videos, or even when we're not doing a series, but we're constantly making royalty from Amazon KDP just from having those books linked in the description and other places as well. And I just love it because it's a way where I'm still creating that community around the content, but then people have a way with the study guides where they can like go deeper and develop their own personal relationship with God, which is always our goal anyways. So it's just like a win-win where you can figure out what offer works well for you that best serves your audience, but also helps you to meet your revenue goals so that you can continue your mission.
So what was the journey of figuring out how to self-publish? Because it might feel daunting to individuals to think about, okay, logging into Amazon, formatting, like how'd you figure all that stuff out?
YouTube University.
Yes.
Googled everything. Yes. And I was like, it would take, like, when I first got started, I was like, I didn't know how to format. I was like, I just have my Word document, and then I have to go on YouTube and figure out, oh, what did I do wrong? And I have to resubmit it, and they'll be like, oh, it's wrong. And it was just a lot of trial and error. I didn't take like a super like expensive course or anything like that. I didn't have money for that at the time. I just figured it out as I went along by how to format margins for a KDP size 6x9 book. It's all out there. Like all the information's out there.
Got it. So diligence, step by step, problem by problem, writing out your content. And then do you just type out chapter by chapter in Google Docs? Like, what's your process?
My process has changed over the years, actually, especially with ChatGPT.
Because you can narrate, you can kind of do you use narration? Yeah.
I do now. I didn't back then. I just typed everything out. As I had an idea, if I had an idea while I was out, I would use my notes app, and then I would come home, put it on my computer, type it out. Now I might be on a walk and just have my voice memo app and just start talking. And that's how I do my video scripts now. And then what's cool with one of the most recent updates for the iPhone, it transcribes your, I don't know if you saw that, it transcribes your voice memos now, where you can just click copy the whole transcription of the entire voice memo.
Got it. So you've really tapped into it's helping you write the books and the Bible studies you're writing using AI. 2, for your video scripts, if you're preparing another video, you're out walking, you start getting an idea, you just start narrating or verbally processing into ChatGPT while you're walking. And then
into my voice memo app.
Okay.
And then I'll take the transcription from that. I'll put that in a ChatGPT and say, hey, can you edit this for spelling, grammar, sentence structure? Keep it in my voice. Keep it in my tone. Don't take anything out. Like, I'll be real specific about what I want depending on what I'm trying to do. Write a hook that sounds like this,
Got it. Okay, so the voice memo app on iPhone, make sure you do the recent software update, OS, operating system update. And not only do you have the voice memo app, but then you've got the ability to copy paste the entire transcript, give ChatGPT some instructions to not alter your tone or anything like that. And now you can build out a video script while you're on a walk.
While I'm on a walk. I have had to get like super smart and fast about creating content because I feel like for me, time is always limited. Because I got it, like I was telling you today, I was like, okay, 2:00, I got to get in the carpool line. Like, there's always, like, with the kids, there's always something going on. Or, like, I was like, okay, I have to record videos at night. And so I feel like for a lot of times I'm, like, working in the fringes, and I've just had to, I am grateful for that because it's forced me to be disciplined, but it's also forced me to be really innovative and smart with how I create content. And I can create content probably 10 times faster than I could 10 years ago.
Man, it is really a game changer with AI, some of this technology, which is nice because everybody listening to this is asking like, man, how do I balance this with kids or work or school? And so these are some really juicy tips. Now, I am curious, like, if you can think about what has been like one of your best months from Amazon KDP. It's inspiring. I'm on your Amazon page. Your most recent book, Crazy or Called. You got Stand Firm, Worth More Than Rubies, a grace-filled Bible study on the 7 virtues of Proverbs 31, 91 reviews. And over the years, it looks like, you've built now multiple listings. So it's kind of like speaks to the longevity of like one book at a time, one Bible study at a time. But like, what are we talking here? Obviously, it's maybe up and down, but like, can you think of like maybe your best month of how much essentially Amazon sent you?
It was probably a few $1,000s.
Wow.
And then on average, we probably get like between $500 and $700 a month if we're not promoting anything. But if we're promoting anything, it'll be substantially larger than that.
Yeah, so this is kind of like this reoccurring revenue stream, also similar to building up ranked videos and building up a library of videos. You also have like a library of assets of the books you've written, and they're ebooks. Some of them are physical books as well, and that's all through KDP, is right?
Right.
Have you done any audiobooks?
I haven't done audio. I do want to try that though.
Yes. Well, I love this. Okay. Now, again, we're actually going to get into so much more, but one other question, I call this a lightning round. We're quite a bit into the conversation, but sort of the opening things, kind of talking about the financial side. We've covered, the KDP, AdSense, some of the different ways, you've been earning money with your app. But have you also built an email list?
Oh, yes. I'm pretty sure I had an email list before I had a YouTube channel.
Why do you think it's important to have an email list? And do you think that this is an overlooked point for a lot of creators?
I do. I think a lot of people are like focused on, I want to grow my Instagram or I want to grow my TikTok. And I think those are great. For me, I've been able to grow my revenue and my YouTube channel faster, I believe, because we've had that email list, because people have what's called permission marketing, where they're saying, I will give you my email address because I actually want to hear more from you. And so those people are more prone to buy from you, to want to hear from you because they've given you permission to connect with them. They actually want to hear from you. And so that's worked really well for us over the years. Every time I post a video, I make sure to send it out to my email list. And that helps us to, within those first 24 hours, to make sure we get those extra views from our email list. And these are like the women that are like super passionate about the ministry and supporting us. And so they're clicking those videos from the emails, they're sharing with their friends. And so it just helps overall.
And so how have you done that? I mean, and maybe you've used different softwares over the years, oftentimes called like CRM, customer relationship management, or email marketing softwares. But also why people sign up. Do you give away something free? How have you done that?
Yes. So my primary opt-in, which is like the free gift that I give for people to give us their email, is a video Bible study called Worry Free that I don't share anywhere else. I've been using that same opt-in probably since 2017. And it just works really well. And so I just keep with it. But we have different like prayer guides or 5-day challenges, or quizzes work really well. We have a what spiritual season quiz are you in, or what type of Proverbs 31 quiz are you in? And those work really well as well. So we have multiple opt-ins, but I focus mainly on the Worry-Free Bible Study video. And that's like our main one.
Very inspiring. Okay, so taking a little bit back, you've given us a picture of your past, but I'm kind of curious about seasons of YouTube. A lot of listeners, young kids, it's a whole different ball game than when they're, a little bit grown up, or different seasons of work, balancing work, full-time job with YouTube. And one of the things for you was having a year of health challenges, yet still growing your channel off of just a few videos. Can you tell us that story?
Yes, that was a very hard year for me. I had a lot of health challenges, specifically a slip disc in my cervical spine, and had some issues with one of my eyes. I have glaucoma and had to have surgery, and then another emergency surgery after that. And so it definitely was one of those struggle seasons that I was in, and I'm just trying to survive. I only got like 12 videos out that year, most of them at the beginning of the year, because once everything started spiraling, I just was like tapped out. But I remember looking at the analytics and being like, wow, we still gained like 10,000 subscribers, and people were still watching all of the older videos that I had posted before. And so, as you know, I really started being consistent in YouTube in 2016. I think I took VRA in 2017 and learning how to rank my videos. And so all those ranked videos were still getting views for me while I was recovering. And that was like super inspiring for me to just continue YouTube, because you go through a season like that, or any other season where you feel like you're just struggling and you're like, I could just stay tapped out. Like, I could just like not come back and be okay. Like, it's a lot of work that content creators put in. It's a lot of effort that you're putting in. And you do have those seasons where life gets hard and it's easier to just kind of like quit, you know? But I think that really inspired me, because it showed me like, this is working, and this is probably the best platform to create an impact if that's something that you want to do, even when you're not available. And so that just kind of inspired me. Okay, let's still continue to lean in on this YouTube. Also, I feel called to do it. So, but YouTube helps.
So you mentioned taking our program Video Ranking Academy in 2017. One of the things that sometimes individuals new to the term ranking, or I learned how to rank videos, is they're like, what exactly does that mean? So I'm curious if you were talking to a friend who is kind of brand new to YouTube, and you throw that out. That's not exactly like kitchen table talk with your family. Like, I'm ranking videos. They're like, what? Like, how would you try to explain that simply, of like what a ranked video is and why that, again, is so powerful through the different seasons of life?
Yeah. Well, I would just explain that, people are coming to YouTube usually searching for something. And so ranking your video means creating your video in a way where the people that are searching for the topic that you talk about can easily find you. So if someone searches how to study the Bible for women, our videos will probably be some of the ones that will pop up at the top, because we've intentionally titled our videos and create our videos in a way to make sure that happens. So that's what I mean when I say rank your video, with starting with the thought of, what are people searching for, and how can I make this video easy for them to find it? Yeah,
that's why we're obsessed with ranking videos here at Think Media. And I think about it in the seasons of life as well, whether in our family we've had chronic health issues or challenges. Now, as a father of a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, it's like I'm always looking for ways to have leverage, essentially videos working for me, things working for me when I'm not working, because it may be that you need to work on something else, recover, rest, or maybe that you're dealing with a really heavy season. And so ranked videos are super powerful. And if you're listening to this and you actually just want to drill down on that one topic and you haven't seen my free class, you can go to thinkmasterclass.com, or I'll link that up in the show notes. Just goes more into specifically ranking videos. And so I'll have a link to that free 1-hour class in the show notes if you want to check that out a little bit more. One of the things that has helped you with your channel, you're getting views, is you mentioned in our pre-survey that a well thought out hook is working good for your channel growth right now. And you're doing some new stuff, because you already talked about maybe a prompt that you're giving AI for coming up with these well thought out hooks. Can you break that down?
Yes. So as you already know, Sean, those first few seconds of your video are like super important. YouTube's looking at that, at the engagement in those first few seconds to I guess, decide how they'll share that video on the platform. So you definitely, but you also want to just, in and of yourself, make sure that people are engaged in those first few seconds so that they continue to watch the video. And so I usually do script my videos out completely. If
Swiffer duster traps 4 times more dust for clean even mom approves of.
That reach.
Making hard to reach
So easy.
Swiffer. Wow. The mother of all cleans. Love it or your money back.
La-da-da-da-dee. La-da-da-da-da. I don't, and I just have an outline, I will at least always script the intro or the hook to make sure that whoever's watching knows what the video is going to be about and why it's so important, why they should continue to watch. Usually trying to like pull out some of their pain points and provide a promise that we can help alleviate that if they continue to watch the video. And so one thing that I've been doing is really just studying other people's hooks on YouTube. So, and it doesn't even have to be like a Christian content creator. It could just be anybody doing a video, a beauty video or like a productivity video. And so this is like a hack that I've been doing. If I see a video and I'm like, wow, that hook really got me, I will on YouTube transcribes all the videos. I will copy the hook of that video from the transcription and I'll put it in what I call my YouTube copy bank and I'll just save them. And so then as I'm creating my videos, I will take that hook, I'll put it in ChatGPT and I'll say, hey, can you use this hook as a template for my video and create a hook based on this template that you've created from this other hook. I hope that makes sense. And so ChatGPT will kind of give me like a really rough draft, and then I will go in and kind of craft it to really make it my own, but still kind of use the same format of the hook that I really liked from them.
That is a genius YouTube tip, and so practical, and something that we can immediately use to start getting more views on our videos. I'm also curious, are you using shorts, and how consistently are you posting shorts, and how do you feel about shorts when it comes to long form versus shorts this year on YouTube?
I am using shorts. So I have a video editor now, love her. And so she'll take probably 2 to 3 shorts out of my long form videos. And then I will post them after I posted the long form video so that I can then link people from that short to then encourage them to watch the long form video. Because as you upload the short, there's I forgot what it's called, the related video that you can connect to.
Yeah, that makes it a clickable link right on the short called related videos.
Right. So I'm leveraging shorts to just get more views to the long form videos.
Got it. And how effective do you think that's been, or what have you noticed?
I was using shorts a lot last year because I was doing a lot of testing, and I did see a substantial growth in our views. Both our short view, because some people were like, oh, well, you only get people that want to watch short view, the shorts. And so then they don't really watch the long form. I've seen that that has transferred over to having more views on the long form as well. I think it takes time, though, for some of those numbers to kind of come through. But from what I've seen, it's been working for us. Our view count, both shorts and long form, increases anytime that I'm consistently posting shorts.
That's a great insight. I think it also, for listeners, sometimes the issue is like their shorts are different than their long form significantly.
Oh,
so sometimes
okay.
It almost like creates confusion where I guess in your case, it's like your shorts are aligned. So it's
right.
So the people who are following you, they want to learn about the Bible, they want to learn these principles, and maybe a short as a reminder, they want to dig deeper. And so it might settle the debate, because this is a huge debate amongst creators. But for sometimes it's like shorts can be what is getting you views there might be so unrelated to your other content that it could create algorithmic confusion. But the vision of your channel, the brand of your channel, I think it's probably one reason why that's very helpful. That's a great tip for listeners to think about strategic shorts using the related video feature that are tying back to the bigger video that they are a part of. In fact, even to address, sometimes people wonder if they should make a trailer for their long form video. And I don't think you should. I think what you're doing is your editor's cutting out a clip that's valuable on its own that then links back. And then that is a choice that viewers can make if they want to go look at the long form. In fact, I'll link up in the show notes. I had an interesting conversation with Dave Ramsey's YouTube producer and strategist, who broke down how they are kind of using a tiered approach to using shorts that lead to their longer form. And it's a pretty, some people's favorite video in terms of just kind of how interesting and tactical it is. So that'll be linked in the show notes as well. I need to know about your day. And what I mean is, like, at the different seasons of life, whether you got a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old, whether you were editing at night, and maybe and then things are different. Today, you got to go into the carpool line or to pick your kids up. Like, what are your tips for busy creators and entrepreneurs that are making excuses that they don't have enough time? How do you do it? And what are maybe just some of the practical things from the time you get up to run a business, to also create content, to run the financials, all the other unseen things. And in just a second, I want to talk about how you actually have a nonprofit set up and an S Corp, and how we could structure some of our YouTube things for where it's relevant for listeners. But what is your productivity tips, and what do you personally do to kill excuses and get everything done?
I don't always get everything done, but I have a planner. We actually have a Beloved Women planner. And so I try to each day kind of write out what I need to get done that day. And I pick like the top, like I have to get this one thing done today.
Be courageous, be bold, take the move and just do it.
Babes, we're in our healthy hair era. And when I say drench, I mean drench.
And try to make sure that's the first thing that I get done. So I would say just prioritizing, taking time to and a lot of people are like, yeah, you can prioritize, but you have to take time and be like, in this season, what is the most important thing for my business, for my ministry, for my nonprofit? What is the most important thing? If it's, we got to submit our taxes, you better do that. Then, it might not always be creating a video, or maybe it is today, I got to get a video recorded because we're going out of town next week. So I figure out what is my priority, and I try to structure my day around that. I have a block of deep work time. So usually from 9 to 12, I try my best not to schedule anything during that time. For me, I know my zone of genius in my business, so that I'm not distracted with busy work. I know that I have to be writing. I have to be creating content. If I'm not doing that, we're not making money. So from 9 to 12 every day, I'm at this computer and I'm writing something. I'm creating some sort of script or Bible study guide or something like that. And so just being really disciplined about doing those things, but also being clear about what I don't do. So I don't watch that much TV because I just don't have time. I don't have Instagram on my phone because it distracts me. So I would be scrolling all day. I love Instagram. So I'll use different apps to post there when I need to. So just knowing what my distraction weaknesses are and making sure that I have limits there so that I can be present, whether I'm at work or with my family or things like that. But then also what you said is also giving myself grace. If I know that I've been going hard for 10 days straight, I might drop the kids off at school, come home and lay on the couch and go to sleep, and just say, I gotta just rest today. And just being at a point where I know the signs of okay, you're pushing a little bit too hard, let's reel it back in a little bit. Or, even talk to my ministry coordinator. She might be like, you taking a break anytime soon? You okay? You've been kind of going kind of hard, so having people in my life, her, my husband, that just kind of hold me accountable. Cause I'm definitely can be a worker bee. I'm more the person you have to slow down than push to speed up. So
those are some great insights. And I would love to hear a little bit more about your definition of deep work, especially as a content creator. So I want to hear from you. It sounds like a time of killing distractions, but sometimes there's this idea of writer's block, not having the energy. I've heard others call this knowledge workers. Content creators are knowledge workers. The effectiveness of your brain and your energy and your focus. What does deep work mean to you? And from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., when you've blocked that out, is there anything you're doing to get in the zone?
For me, deep work is the most important work that I have to do, like you said, that I can't, it's not something I can multitask. Like if I have to do it when the kids are gone, they're at school, like it's not the kind of like emails, I can do that if they're like around, or like creating a thumbnail, I can do that if they're around. But like writing, it's whatever work that I really need to be locked into and paying attention to. So that's deep work for me. So I start out, I try to get some food in me first. Something I usually just do, like some scrambled eggs and some bacon, just get some protein in me, maybe some tea if I'm feeling tired. If not, then I don't really do caffeine. But I'm also not like one of those people that wake up at 4 a.m. I tried it. It's not for me. I'm not a morning person, so I just let that go. Everybody else can have that. I'd let that go a long time.
You're not like doing a cold plunge and then like running 20 miles with, like
I
all
love
this
sleep
trendy.
too much. I love to sleep. So I'm one of those people that I know this is like the opposite of what all the productivity people will tell you. But I wake up at the latest moment. I know I have to get out of bed at 7:32 to get the kids to school on time. I'm going to sleep till 7:32. That's just in this season. Maybe later I'll be one of those 4 a.m. people, but not right now.
Oh, you're setting people free right now because again,
I don't do it. I don't do all that. I tried it and I was like,
it's kind of overrated. It's kind of like what's works for you. It really can be helpful, but like you get enough. So look at the business you've built. Like look at, and I think you're setting people free because we feel pressure as if like these complex morning routines are really the secret. It's really about finding your routine of getting in the zone. But I'm cutting you off. You can keep going.
Right. No, you're good. And so drop the kids off at school, get here, try to get some breakfast in. I will always do a morning devotion, spend some time with God, but it's like maybe 10, 15 minutes. And then I will write down my list of things because I got to get out my head. I'm always thinking, what do I need to do today? So like, I just write it down. So it's out of my head. And then I'm like, all right, let's get to work.
Yep. And then you do that 5 days a week.
5 days a week. Yes. I would love to take Fridays off, but I'm not there yet.
There's something, it's like if you see anybody that's getting consistent results and you look behind the scenes of their life, you can see a consistent routine. It's like there's something about it's pretty wild. I just think about 5 days a week. You have deep work from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. and look at what you've accomplished. That's all. There's also sometimes it's not, some scrambled eggs and some tea is not super fancy. It's not even necessarily exciting. It's repetitious, but discipline equals freedom. And so that is inspiring to hear. Yet it also is unique to you. People do different individual things and to get in the zone, but you found out something that works. Anything else on this routine and the discipline that you've consistently had over years that's really compounded?
I would say exercise. I walk. I try to get 2 miles in every day. It's been hard because it's been snowing here. I'm in North Carolina and it's cold for us. And so, but normally when weather's good, at that 12 o'clock time, 12 or 1, I try to get outside, get some fresh air, get my body moving. And then I'm like thinking and I'm creating ideas and trying to solve problems that came up while I was doing the deep work and, scripting videos, different things like that.
I love that. This is just coming to mind right now, my number one purchase, I think maybe in the last 5 years that I feel like has changed my life is a walking pad for under my standing desk.
I had a feeling you were going to say that. I'm about to buy one now just because you said that. You're the second person I heard say that.
And I researched it forever. I ended up getting, the brand is actually called Walking Pad. I got the C1. It's a foldable walking machine. It's under my desk right now. I've now started to easily get in 10,000 to 15,000 steps a day as I go through about 2 hours of meetings. And I'm going to be on 2 hours of meetings anyways on Zoom.
Right.
And it's been, I've noticed I've been getting less chronic pain that I've been dealing with anyways, up in like shoulders and neck because of my hips. I'm feeling better. That energy's transferring towards the end of the day. And I love getting out, maybe with some Bluetooth headphones. Probably best to actually just go on a walk, but I maybe take phone calls and whatnot. But it actually has been the secret for me lately because of just being able to stay working or multitask, especially with meetings. So anyways, if anybody wants to check that particular one out. I actually think maybe I got the C2. I got the C2 walking pad. I'll link it up in the show notes if anyone's interested in this particular brand. But it's been a game changer, Christina.
I'm sold. You're the second person I heard say that, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I got to get one out.
And I used to actually think when people said get 12,000 steps a day, that I was like, that just sounds impossible. I'm too busy. And then I realized, well, this is actually like not hard, actually, because if you're going to be, I can actually, and then if I'm planning a video, I can talk to my microphone right here. And of course, I think the big investment is also thinking about a sit-stand desk, or at least a standing desk that's going to go underneath that. And so there's some other pieces to get in place. So if anybody wants to look at that, I'll link. I have an office tour video, and I'm going to do an updated one because I've got my sit-down desk, and then my walkie pad. It's like my new favorite thing. It's like under my desk. So anyways, we'll link all of that up in the show notes. Okay, two other big, really cool things to talk about. I want to hear a little bit about S Corp and nonprofit. You have both, and listeners might be interested in how they're going to structure their thing. But I want to hear about the video series strategy first. So kind of something that's been working for you, something that you have doubled down on. You mentioned it earlier that when you create a new Bible study series, or you write a book that you publish on Amazon KDP, that you create a video series around it. A lot of individuals are out there trying to make a one-off video, a good video, trying to go viral, trying to get views, but you've built these series out. What can you explain, like, just maybe how you think about this, and why perhaps thinking about a series could be a strategy listeners consider more than just thinking about a solo video?
I think series are so helpful because I can have one idea and come up with a series around it and just kind of break it up. So I don't have to come up with necessarily 5 different ideas. I can break this one idea up into a 5 video series. And most likely the person that watches video one in the series is going to want to watch the rest because they've already shown interest in it. And so it reminds me of like when I was a little girl, I used to watch this soap opera with my mom called All My Children. And at the end of every episode, they would say next time on All My Children. And it would just kind of like spark this interest in you to be like, I can't wait for tomorrow. What's going to happen in the next episode? And so in some of my series, I actually implemented that. So because everything was already recorded, I would say, watch to the end and see a sneak preview of next week's video. And I would put like a little 20, 30 second like clip of what was coming up next week. And I feel like that really help people not just to come back, but to also subscribe because they see like, okay, this isn't just a one-off video. Like she creates content that I'm interested in every single week. And so one thing that I like to say is like, when you show up consistently for your audience, they will show up consistently for you. And we've been able to do that, I would say pretty seamlessly through video series. And I think it does work with the type of content that we're creating as well, because some of the ideas, if you're talking about like the Proverbs 31 woman, it could be a 3-hour video. But I could just break that up into 20-minute, so many 20-minute videos as well.
You know what this is inspiring me is I've studied out, and when it comes to marketing and psychology, they actually in email marketing, they called it like a soap opera sequence because soap operas themselves actually use techniques that really work psychologically. You develop emotional bonds with the characters. You have an emotional investment. There's a curiosity gap when cliffhangers happen at the end of episodes. There's routine formation, like just being able to watch that show daily. And listeners could tap into all of these different things when you're building a community on your YouTube channel in a positive way. I know there's people, there's news shows I watch on YouTube. It's part of my routine.
Right.
Good curiosity gap is maybe what else is coming next on the podcast, and even the emotional investment. If we take that deeper, some of the I've invested a lot of money in some masterminds and whatnot that revealed this tip, and it was this idea that soap operas are they're actually less about even the story. They're about the characters. Like sometimes the stories aren't that good, but you're invested in the characters. And so a one-off movie, you're like, that's such a great story, where really the soap opera idea is the character itself. And the principle was that if you're building a personal brand, like it being invested, there is an aspect where you do want people to get invested in you. Of course, a healthy way, but it's like the reason we keep following you is like, yes, they're learning from the Bible. Yes, they're learning about YouTube, but how else can they connect with you, the individual? And if anything, maybe you're actually not doing this, but it was painting an idea that like weaving in narrative or the connection they actually have. I mean, I really believe that actually, if you're only going to have a one-off video, if all you have is a good video with a good hook, maybe a few videos people watch from you, but if you're going to build a true longevity on YouTube, you do need at some level people to be invested in you. So anyways, we could talk about that. In fact, if you watch the YouTube version of this podcast, let me know if you'd want me to maybe do an episode about the stuff I've studied and learned about what YouTubers could apply soap opera techniques. You can leave a comment or any other questions you have for future episodes. But I love that. And we would encourage listeners, right? You do this. We love to do this as well. Don't just think about your next video. Think about your next video series. When you sit down and plan these out, do you know how many episodes there are going to be, or how does that process take? Like, didn't you actually plan them all before you even press record on the first one?
I've done both. So, but I do know how many videos will be in there because I'm going to have an outline, because I got to know at the first video, I got to know where you're going to end up at the end of the series. So I at least know how many videos are going to be in that series. I try to create at least all the videos in the series first before we start posting, just because something I say in video 7 might make me think I need to reword something in video 3 kind of situation, just because we're doing like Bible study series and I want to make sure that it really is accurate. But I do think it's easier to kind of just create them as you go along, because when my kids were younger, it was easier to batch content. Now it's not as easy for me to batch content as it was then. So it just kind of depends on what season you're in and how much time you actually have.
I love that. All right. Well, I do want to have one final question for you, really, that I think could be, it's a little more advanced, talking about business structure, nonprofits, and all that kind of stuff. But before we kind of get to that final section, I want to acknowledge you for, one, thank you so much for being a part of our community, for the good you're doing in the world, for the content you're putting out there, but also whether you've been a part of some of our challenges in our private group for VRA. I'm just so grateful for you. The entire Think Media team, appreciates you. And really just thanks again for being on the podcast. You've added a ton of value today. Again, before we get to that last question, give a full roll call so people can check out your stuff. You actually have 2 channels. You have another channel that's teaching some of the more YouTube and business stuff. And so, yeah, where can people connect with you? And we'll make sure to list out everything in the show notes.
Protein bar that tastes like Reese's? Dreams do come true. One Reese's Lovers Protein Bar.
Yes, you can find everything about Beloved Women. We're on YouTube at Beloved Women or belovedwomen.org. If you want to learn more about me, like professional teaching, YouTube, business, nonprofit work, you can go to our YouTube channel, The Beloved Studio, or go to ChristinaPatterson.com.
Yeah, I love that. So check out the show notes to connect with Christina. And I do want to hear a little bit about this idea, especially for faith-based ministry type channels. How is it that you came about forming a nonprofit and then also forming an S Corp, and maybe the order of doing those, what you've done strategically about thinking, this will especially be true for Christian content creators or others, maybe trying to figure out what entity to set up, how to do it. And so what's that process been like for you?
For me, I originally started as a nonprofit because I was thinking, okay, if I want to have like this mission-driven mindset, it needs to be nonprofit. The focus doesn't need to be money. And like I shared with you earlier, I quickly realized that We still need money though. And so nonprofit does not mean you just don't make money. Like, no, you still need income and revenue to keep your mission going. And so I like to explain it like this, like a for-profit business, the goal is to generate a profit by solving your customers' problems. But when it comes to a nonprofit, your goal is to help make an impact by meeting your community's needs. But there still needs to be structure, and you still need income in both situations. As I've grown, I personally think, and this might be a hot take, Sean, I personally think a lot of people that are starting out with like mission-driven organizations are thinking, oh, I should do a nonprofit, and they probably should do a business. Because a business is going to help you to structure yourself in a way where you can generate income to help propel the mission without as much red tape in certain circumstances. You don't have to have a board of directors or anything like that. I think that people think, okay, well, I want to be a nonprofit because I don't want money to be the focus, because I don't want money to become a distraction. But what I see is a lot of people start nonprofits and they don't have money. And that becomes a distraction because you still need money. So it still becomes a distraction anyways. And so I think that you can still have a mission-driven for-profit business that helps you to generate the money that you need to make the impact that you feel called to have. And so for me, we started off as a nonprofit. We're a 501c3 nonprofit in the United States. That's just like a tax filing name. That means that we have certain tax benefits, and that when people donate to us, they can write that donation off on their taxes. So it's a benefit when to tell people to donate to our organization. And it is about credibility as well, that we're recognized by the government in this way. But when it comes to income generating offers like our app membership or our books or anything like that, then that is a for-profit entity. It started off as a LLC. And then, Sean, I got audited by the IRS. Now, look, everything was clear. But what happened was, because I was an LLC, and this is like high level stuff, but just because I was an LLC, I still have to report that on my personal taxes. And I filed jointly with my husband, and I was like, oh no, we got to separate this. And so that's when I was like, okay, let's do an S Corp where it's a little separate. But that was scary for me, but it also, again, reminded me of the purpose, the importance of really having some sort of organizational structure, despite, if you just want to focus on impact, because the government didn't care. They were like, let me see those receipts. And so it's still important to have a business mindset. A nonprofit is still a business. Mm-hmm. And you still need to have organization, you still need income, you still need structure, you still need a budget, you still need an accountant probably. And so, and I'm not a professional. This is not professional advice. This is just my experience from the past 10 years being in business, the past 20 years in ministry, in women's ministry. This is my experience. But yeah, you still need to have some sort of structure, whether it's a nonprofit or a business. But don't knock starting a business, even if you feel like you're more faith-based or mission-driven, because that actually might be the way that God provides the revenue to fulfill the mission he's called you to. And that's okay too.
And ultimately today, because there's this ministry aspect to what you're doing, you still have the 501c3 nonprofit set up, because it allows for, in this one method, if people want to say, I want to support and make donations to the ministry work you're doing, they can do that. You have the credibility of that, and that's a write-off for them. So for having both for you, and this could be true for faith-based Christian creators, having both might be a practical thing.
Right.
And then you started realizing, though, well, because I got a YouTube income and this app income and whatnot, I'm also going to have this S Corp set up. Am I following that correctly?
That's right.
And I do want to encourage listeners as well. There's a couple good episodes, in fact, a series that we have here on Think Media that is about taxes, corporate structure. And one of the things that is powerful about an S Corp is you actually can save money on self-employment taxes in the US.
Right.
And some, even if you're making, I think I talked to a CPA named Matt in that video series. I think if you're making around $50,000 a year plus, you can start actually putting a few $1,000s back in your pocket just because of how you set up your structure. So I know that at this point, if someone's still listening, number one, you're ride or die on this episode.
Right, thank you.
Number two, this is the real stuff though. There's like tweaks to, real creator economy business stuff. And, we want this podcast to be a resource for you. So we've put a ton. Thank you for all of that value that you've added, Christina. And in the show notes, I'm going to do a roll call here. We've got Christina's stuff. You can look at all of that. We will link up that series on taxes, corporate structure. If you want to learn more about ranking videos specifically, Christina is a part of our Video Ranking Academy. It's one of our favorite obsessions here at Think Media. You can also check out that free class. You can watch it on demand. That's at thinkmasterclass.com, and that'll be in the show notes as well. And if you're actually ready to get your 12,000 steps in, you can check out my favorite walking pad and my new favorite purchase I've made. It'll probably 5 to 10 years of my life. The Walking Pad C2, which is absolutely been a game changer. So always check out the show notes. And Christina, thanks again for adding value. Think Media Podcast. Like, rate, share, review wherever you watch or listen. And I cannot wait to connect with you in a future episode.
Introducing 2 new Baja Chipotle subs featuring our world-famous Baja Chipotle sauce. Listen, that's the Baja Chipotle talking. Well, it's actually me talking, but you know what I mean. Find your fresh with the new Baja Chipotle collection at Subway.
Spice deodorant. #1 aluminum-free brand.
You could do a trial of vidIQ for just $1. So that's a great deal. And you can try it out for 30 days. It has a keyword research tool. It has tools to help you do all of your tags in like less than 60 seconds to come up with highly clickable, algorithmic triggering titles that also are reinforced by the keywords that your video needs. It'll do that with AI right when you're posting your video. You may have heard in a previous Think Media podcast episode with Swavey Curly Courtney that she uses vidIQ's title tool, and it has helped her grow her channel and quickly write incredible titles just built in. And it's going to help you with all the metadata steps. It's got a whole checklist. It walks you through just making sure you do all the things and you don't forget about anything. So again, just a resource for you. You could do this manually on your own and just pay attention to detail and make sure you get all the back end of YouTube optimized properly, or use a tool like vidIQ. And after the $1 trial, I think right now the Boost plan is like $16 a month or something like that. So super affordable. And if you want to check that out, vidiq.com/think, or just click the link in the show notes to do a $1 trial of one of the coolest softwares for YouTube optimization called vidIQ. And you can check that out in the show notes. All right, so we are going through YouTube's ranking algorithm, the 10 factors that actually matter in 2025. #1, viewer satisfaction. #2, watch time, audience retention. #3, engagement signals like likes, comments, shares, your transcript, the words you say in your video, time codes, chapters. #4, the relevance of metadata, title, description, tags. #5, click-through rate. So CTR, aka click-through rate, is the percentage of people who click on your video after seeing it in search results or recommendations. And this still matters like crazy. Eye-catching thumbnails, compelling titles drive click-through rate higher, and they signal viewer interest. And so imagine this, you're walking down a busy street lined with restaurants. Each one has a sign out front, but some signs are faded, they're cluttered, or hard to read, while others are bold, clear, inviting, and they instantly make your mouth water. Which restaurant do you want to walk into? You know, when you think about YouTube, There are a lot of signs out there inviting you to walk through the door into their restaurant, AKA click through and watch their video. And so you want to be thinking about it. Is your thumbnails faded, cluttered, hard to read, or are they clear and inviting and instantly recognizable? Are your titles hard to read and clunky and sort of not well optimized, or are they smooth and easy to read? Really, the combination of your topic, of your title, and of your thumbnail, those three things together are going to be the determining factor of your click-through rate. And here's the thing. When it comes to YouTube and really building your brand online, if you confuse, you lose. Clarity is power. And if I had to choose between creativity and clarity, I would choose clarity every single time. So when possible, keep your thumbnails simple, bold, visually striking, and ensure that your titles are sharp, easy to read, and instantly intriguing. And be doing your research to be picking on topics that people want to click on in your niche. The sixth factor for ranking and triggering the algorithm is session duration. Check this out. YouTube values videos that keep users on the platform longer, even after your video ends. So content that leads viewers to watch more videos through playlists or strong end screens improve rankings. So the goal here is not just thinking about how do I get somebody to watch one of my videos. The question is, how do I get people to binge my content? So a couple tips is instead of creating a singular video, think about creating a series. And then when the video is over, think about giving a clear and compelling reason to click the end card and to keep watching more videos in that series, or a not natural follow-up to watch next. Think about organizing your videos in playlists and then giving a call to action to those playlists to let people know that the playlist exists and there's multiple videos that they might be interested in. The ultimate goal and really the action item is architecting binge-worthy experiences when it comes to your videos and thinking beyond a singular video and thinking about multiple different videos. Number 7, video length and depth. So longer videos that maintain viewer engagement tend to rank better, especially for informational and how-to content. Studies consistently show that top-ranking videos average around 10 to 15 minutes, provided they deliver value throughout. So a couple things here. One, there's a temptation to look for the perfect video length, and the answer is there is not one. However, longer is better if it can hold attention. And I did just give you a number, and this was from deep study of YouTube, Google, my experience, and analyzing data, deep research with AI. 10 to 15 minutes is a great target. You also can analyze different creators out there. You notice some of the biggest creators pushing their video lengths to 24 minutes, about the length of a half-an-hour TV show. So you start thinking, okay, why are people doing longer content? Well, not just to fluff up their content. If it can hold viewer retention, what does YouTube want? They want you on the platform for as long as possible. So deliver value throughout and stretch your content length if you can keep value packed in the video. I recently spoke at an event in Las Vegas. It was the CEO summit for Keller Williams Realty. And I shared the one strategy I would focus on if I was a real estate agent, but for anybody listening to this podcast, you want to be consistent on YouTube this year, this is the one strategy I'd focus on, and here it is. Create at least one high quality, strategically optimized, long form, horizontal video every single week. And here's my definition. 6 to 15 minutes plus. So create at least one high quality, strategically optimized, long form, 6 to 15 minute plus horizontal video each week. Do that over and over and over and get 1% better with every upload. And I believe you can start building momentum on YouTube and triggering the algorithm. And if we play out this algorithm factor even deeper, there is a time and place for ultra long form content. That's a massive opportunity this year. One of the videos we just uploaded on our Think Media channel is a YouTube business masterclass that is 4 hours and 40 minutes long. It actually just featured 4 sessions of our event, Grow with Video Live, that happens in Las Vegas, all in one video. But check this out. The RPM of the video is $17 because of the subject matter, business, online marketing, etc. And at this moment, this is kind of funny, but for a 4-hour and 45-minute video, the average view duration is 14 minutes right now. So you might be like, that's so short compared to the length of video. True, but it's also like really long compared to people's average attention on YouTube. All right, we're going through 10 factors, and we have reached number 8, which is channel authority and consistency. Channels with a history of regular uploads, high engagement, and a growing subscriber base are seen as more authoritative. I mentioned this earlier, channel authority. Consistent posting and a strong subscriber count can indirectly boost individual rankings. Now, I actually have 2 things to share with you here. And one is, in today's world, there's an argument that subscribers don't matter. It's the content that matters. And brand new channels are having breakout videos. So never make excuses. Know that you could succeed starting from scratch right now. Also know that sometimes a big subscriber count can kind of be a weakness, or it can just be meaningless because the subscribers have moved on. Such random content was posted on the channel that the subscribers are inconsistent and not actively clicking on the videos right now. However, if you have an engaged subscriber base, you have an advantage, because when you post a video, it's going to boost the ranking because more people are clicking on it and they're watching it right now. And if you've got a reputation of regular uploads that are high quality, high engagement, meaning they are watched and engaged with and commented on and liked, just think about it. It's like a flywheel of success. More success begets more success. So think about it like this. Imagine you're a woman over 40 looking for fitness advice, and you find 2 channels. One has hundreds of workouts, nutrition tips, strength training videos, specifically designed for women in their 40s and 50s and beyond. But then the other channel has a mix of random content. It has some fitness, it has some travel vlogs, it also has some cooking and some generic health tips. Which channel are you more likely to trust for your specific needs? So people always debate, do I need a niche down? Should I post random content? I don't know. I feel like this kind of settles it. Again, you can do that. And if you're building a personal brand and people are subscribing for you and your random life adventures, all right, good luck. But based on those 2 channels, even just health itself, it's like, oh, am I just subscribing for random health advice? Or could I be really dialed in? You're a woman in your 40s, you're looking for fitness advice, you're looking for like that perfect channel that's going to align with you. That's how channel authority works. The more focused your content, the more YouTube and your audience recognize you as the go-to expert for that content. Instead of just being another fitness channel, you become the channel for fitness over 40, making it easier to rank, get more recommendations, and build a loyal following. Number 9, viewer history and personalization. This is a big one because this ties into the theme and you having a niche and you having clarity about what your channel is about. YouTube tailors results based on viewers' watch and search history. So videos that align with a user's past behavior are more likely to rank higher for that individual, making relevance to the audience interests a massive key. So think about what's on your YouTube homepage when you open the app. If you're watching the YouTube version of the podcast, let me know. Like, what are the top things and types of videos that are recommended to you? And think about this. The videos recommended to you are not random. They're based on what you've watched before, what you've engaged with, and what YouTube thinks you will enjoy. There isn't just one YouTube homepage that everyone in the world sees. There's actually billions of homepages. This is what personalization means. So now put yourself in the shoes of your ideal viewer. What's on their homepage? Hopefully your videos. What videos are they clicking on? What creators are they already watching? This gives you the opportunity to think about researching competitors in your niche, thinking about associating your content with other content in your niche, because you're understanding the algorithm, you're understanding how YouTube works. So understanding this helps you create content that naturally fits into other people's recommended feeds. And if your video aligns with what they're already watching, YouTube is far more likely to push it to them, leading to more clicks, higher watch time, and better rankings. At Think Media, we say the creator who understands the viewer best wins. Because when you understand the viewer and the target audience you want to reach, you're making topics that align with their problems and their ambitions, their pain points, the with. And so to rank on YouTube in 2025, you need to understand two things. You need to understand your target audience, and you need to understand how the YouTube algorithm works. And so how do you apply this? Focus on three things. Number one, know your audience. Number two, understand how YouTube recommends content. And then number three, use that knowledge to create video topics and titles that match what your audience is already searching for. Number 10, freshness of content. This is one of the coolest things to know about YouTube because this is why there's always a chance to break out. You know, there's two types of content. There's evergreen content and there's trending content. Evergreen content can rank for months and even years if it sustains engagement over time. But trending topics, think about time-sensitive queries, things like news. They often get a ranking boost. And a lot of times, if you're quick, you can jump on topics before anyone else. And so content that is recently uploaded about topics that people care about, aka freshness of content, is something that YouTube will rank, even if it's only for a short time. And so let me ask you a question. Don't you always want the latest information? Do you prefer new and fresh content, or do you look for old content? I mean, I'm sure there's situations where maybe you are looking for maybe an old classic book is better than a new book that's unproven. But when I search for something on YouTube, I sometimes get frustrated if the top result is from 3 years ago, especially if I'm looking for updates on a product, on a platform, on an industry trend. I'm wondering, what's changed? What's new? Is there a more current video? This is why, if you're starting on YouTube, you're starting from scratch, there's always an opportunity to grow. YouTube is wide open because the world is always changing. There's always a desire for fresh content. That's the opportunity. Fresh content always has a chance to rank because people want the latest updates. And here's the kicker. Many creators can't keep up. They move on, they get busy, they don't update their content. Established creators, because they're established, they're kind of settled, they're kind of comfortable, money's come in, they maybe have some old content that's still making some money, some of their life has changed or transitioned a little bit. This is an opportunity for you. It's a huge advantage for new channels wanting to break through to tap into fresh content. And for a really tactical action item, consider this. A specific time can be a huge ranking factor. You know, I mentioned earlier on our main channel, Think Media, we talk a lot about cameras. So trying to rank for best camera in 2025 is much easier than trying to rank for best camera in general. And every time the Earth circles the sun, we get another shot at a fresh year. And in some industries, you even have a chance to maybe target the month. In real estate, you might do monthly market updates, even weekly. And in other niches, you can jump on trends seasonally, winter, spring, summer, fall, and combine the season with the year. And so there is always an opportunity on YouTube when it comes to freshness of content. It just means you need to be strategic. You need to be forward thinking, have a fresh mindset of not just seeing the problems and the competition, but seeing the opportunities and the possibilities that are before you if you are more creative with your content and you tap into these 10 factors. If you enjoy episodes like this, it always means the world if you like, rate, share, review wherever you watch or listen to the Think Media podcast. If you want to get a free copy, just cover shipping and I will mail you the updated second edition of YouTube Secrets. Just go to ytsecrets.com or click the link in the show notes to order your free copy of YouTube Secrets. Again, just cover shipping, and that'll be on the way in the mail to you right away. Until next time, my name is Sean Cannell, your guide to building a profitable YouTube channel, and I cannot wait to connect with you in a future episode.
The right energy is everything. Rockstar sustains mind, body, energy.
Rockstar energy.
When comfy softness beats meet fragrant scent beats, they blend together to create an incredible feeling beyond cozy called Cozy. New Downy Comfy Cozy breathes life into your laundry.
Is a lot of bad advice on how to grow on YouTube out there. And it's not just ineffective, it actually could be hurting your channel's growth. Today, I'm going to be exposing 10 of these so-called expert tips that could be killing your momentum. Over the past decade, I've tested hundreds of different YouTube strategies. I've watched thousands of creators succeed and fail. And in the process, I've identified the bad advice that is holding creators back. So here are 10 pieces of horrible YouTube advice so you can do the opposite and reach your YouTube goals faster than ever before. Number one, be authentic and the success will come. So there's been this massive authenticity movement on YouTube where people are claiming that if you'll just be yourself, then the success will come. And I'm a big proponent of being real and relatable in your content, the power of vulnerability. But if your content lacks strategy and it lacks structure and it lacks excellence and planning, then you're going to continue to struggle. Imagine you were boarding a plane on your way to a destination vacation, and you had the choice between two pilots. Pilot number one was highly skilled and trained, and pilot number two was really relatable and authentic. Which pilot do you want flying the plane? For me, I'm choosing skill and training every single time, and I don't even care if they're authentic or not. My point is, passion and personality matter for sure, but expertise, research, and effort are the key to creating real impact on YouTube. But this one gets a little tricky because you've probably noticed that there are creators that are getting crazy amounts of views from shooting very stripped down videos, just kind of talking head, or maybe they're sitting in their car and it's like a car confessional where they're riffing on a topic or jumping on a trending topic. And the truth is, those videos can do well. And there is an opportunity in what some people are calling YouTube easy mode. Some of those creators might have a breakout video or two, but where are they over 6 months, 12 months, 2 years? I think one of the things we have to be aware of in today's YouTube environment is that people have a lot of choices. So imagine somebody looking for information and they have two different choices on YouTube. The first creator spent 2 hours on the content and the second creator spent 20 hours on the content. The first creator, they just kind of got a brief idea of what they wanted to say. They hit record, no editing. They talked through the topic of the video and then they uploaded it and posted it. Cool. Now here's the thing. Sometimes those videos pop off. Sometimes a quick and dirty video, raw, quick, shot, posted, can actually get hundreds of thousands of views. That absolutely happens. But then compare it to the second creator who took 20 hours to plan out the video, put some structure in there, shoot some extra B-roll and clips, put it all together in editing, especially if it's educational, put more research and testing into the product or the thing they were going to teach, and then put that out on YouTube. Which one's going to be more impactful? Which one's going to be more memorable? And which one has the greatest chance of succeeding in the long term? The bad advice is that just being real and just being authentic is enough on YouTube. The winning formula is, of course, both. Number two, post every day on YouTube and eventually you'll win the YouTube lottery. With all the different live stream and coaching that we do here at Think Media, we get a lot of feedback from creators. And every once in a while, I'll see people in the comments or I'll see them in one of our groups or our challenges, and they'll be flexing on how many videos they post. They're like, I post 7 times a week. I post every single day, bro. And why I actually think it's commendable that you're putting in that much hustle and that much effort, quantity does not equal
quality. And the danger is you may burn out before seeing results. And what's fascinating about some of this bad YouTube advice is there's some truth in it. Like the more you post on YouTube, the more chances, the more at-bats you have of hitting the right video on the right topic at the right time and triggering the algorithm. But just trying to win the YouTube lottery is a bad strategy. We've all heard the phrase, you need to work smarter, not just harder. And I think that really applies here. Being more intentional, strategic, and perhaps reducing the amount of uploads and increasing how much strategy and energy and effort goes into each video. For example, here at the Think Media Podcast, we talk about ranked videos all of the time. What is a ranked YouTube video? Well, it's a video that you post today that keeps getting views for weeks, months, and years to come. It might be being found in YouTube's search, or it might continue to be suggested by the YouTube algorithm. The key is just one well-crafted ranked video can outperform dozens of mindless rushed YouTube videos. Now you might be wondering, how exactly do I create a ranked video that keeps getting views for weeks, months, and years to come? And I'm actually going to be teaching our 7-step process in an upcoming challenge that's 5 days long. It's entirely free. If you go to tube1kchallenge.com or just click the link in the show notes to register, you can learn more about that. The third piece of bad YouTube advice is wait until you have the perfect camera and the perfect YouTube studio before starting. Of course, the truth is the best camera to have is the one you already do have and that you're actually filming and posting videos with. Great content wins over fancy gear. Hear me out. I heard a leadership coach say one time, complexity is the enemy of execution. And I thought about that. And I thought, man, that is so true when it comes to creating content. You know, I'm recording this podcast sitting here in my home office, and I've got like 3 cameras, a Rodecaster Pro, microphones, cables. My cable management under my desk is so embarrassing and is an absolute nightmare. And what I've found is that I've got a PC that I built out and had to like rebuild, and it has a capture card in it, and every day like it might work, it sometimes doesn't work, and sometimes I'm capturing different video podcasts and the frame rate's wrong, and then I play it back and the audio sync is drifting, and I'm like, even though I'm a tech expert, I'm the camera guy. Like, I will also encourage you to level up your gear. What I've learned is that keeping it simple helps you be more productive. Complexity is the enemy of execution. A good piece of content that adds value to the audience that you want to reach, that's posted on YouTube, that's good enough, and that's actually shared with the world is going to make a lot more impact than hours of footage that is stuck on a hard drive and you're trying to figure out how to edit it and you're trying to actually get it all the way from where you thought about it to actually being posted. For example, here is a simple content creator kit. Smartphone plus the app CapCut. I'm pretty much certain that if you're listening to this, your smartphone films in at least high definition, probably 4K. It's got a great video camera. It's got good enough audio. And if you use an app like CapCut, you can actually make your smartphone videos pretty amazing, pretty easy. And I get it. Tech can kind of be overwhelming and video editing has a learning curve, but just put some time into it. Put a few minutes into it. You'll get the hang of it. Stop waiting for the perfect setup. Use what you have and start creating. Number 4, follow what the big YouTubers do and you'll grow like them. The truth is, what works for Mr. Beast or Alex Hormozi won't necessarily work for you. Consider that they have years of experience, they've got huge budgets and capital to spend on their content, and they've got teams that are helping them make every video. Comparing yourself to other big YouTubers or to one of your competitors that's ahead of you is unrealistic and probably unhelpful. I heard John Acuff say, never compare your beginning to somebody else's middle. However, I do think we could take this one a little bit deeper and find some growth opportunities. For example, studying where they are today has some value, but the real power is in studying where they started. For example, if you look at Alex Hormozi, who talks about business and entrepreneurship on YouTube, if you look at where he's at today, his videos are super fancy. He's built a big content team. He's got some really creative, almost theatric type of business videos, but that's not where he started. He started filming on what is the equivalent of like a baked potato. Like it was like a webcam in a dark room, in a dark closet, And he would sometimes just do talking head videos or film essentially Zoom quality tutorials or PowerPoints, yet those are what helped him get to where he is today. And our goal here is to distill down why was the individual successful. And the reason he was successful was because of the frameworks he was teaching. It was also because of the results he had gotten in business before he started teaching about business. And so if you find a model like that, you say, okay, for me to emulate Alex Hormozi, maybe I need to go get results in business first before I start teaching about business. Or maybe I need to refine my original ideas, frameworks, my proprietary process, how I communicate, because it's not about the camera quality or the production value, especially initially for his success. It was about the information that he was delivering and the results it got for people. Now consider Mr. Beast. Imitating what he's doing now is ridiculous. Like, he literally spends millions of dollars on individual YouTube videos. And I know his staff extends to other brands like Feastables and other business brands, but I think he has like 500 staff. But you can still learn from him. How did he start? Well, he started early on with charity content, taking whatever money he had and filming out and about and giving that money away. He started with some kind of stunt challenge videos, which were just ridiculous, like saying Logan Paul thousands of times in an ultra long video. But the production value wasn't super crazy. It wasn't because he had a good studio. And I don't even really know what the point of that video is, but it worked and it was original and it was unique. And so it wasn't because he had a big staff or a big budget. It was because of his creativity. YouTube will reward you for good ideas. YouTube will reward you for creativity. And so when I think about the bad advice of just their journey, no matter where